No mayor, no Mark.
Mark's on the phone.
Well, yeah. Doesn't mean we have to listen
He's
to him.
playing Christmas 2025.
Is Mark there yet? Should we know?
Yeah, he said he was in Dallas.
Was he on the phone yet?
I don't know about that. Mark, are you on the phone?
I sure am.
Thank you.
Do we need Craig seated or are we good?
I can hear all of Mike's conversations.
Oh, good. You may have to speak up loudly, though. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the first meeting of the Logan Municipal Council for 2025. Our opening ceremony this evening will be given by Mark Montgomery, our Director of Light and Power.
Good evening. I'd just like to give a quick prayer and we'll say a pledge of allegiance. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful to come before thee this evening. We're grateful for this wonderful community that we live in. We're grateful for the opportunity to serve in our various capacities and ask thee to bless us and direct us in our decisions. We ask thee to help us to get the moisture that we need. We ask thee to bless those that we love and the community that we love. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business this evening will be to accept the minutes and approve the agenda.
I would move acceptance of the minutes and approval of tonight's agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mark, did you say aye? When we do,
I sure did.
okay, when we do our action items, we will do a roll call vote so that Mark will be able to have his name associated with the votes. So our 2025 regular meeting schedule is as it was in 2024, the first and third Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. Our next meeting is January 21st, 2025. At this point in the agenda, we open the floor for questions and comments for the mayor, who is not here. She's on a much-deserved vacation. And council. You are welcome to comment on anything that is not otherwise on the agenda. You will be asked to keep your comments to 3 minutes, and we will probably send whatever comment you have to a staff member to answer for you, unless it's something that we know the answer for really quickly. It's not a back and forth, but it's your opportunity to talk to us and tell us your concerns. So if there is anyone who wishes to come to the podium and make a comment, or please make sure you have signed in the back, and we welcome the podium's open to you.
Josh Mahler from Logan. I just got here from the county council. They did a swearing in ceremony today. Keegan swore in. I want to say congratulations to Keegan. Long, hard trip to get into office. And everybody else, all the others that were sworn in, I just wanted to say congratulations to them too. So I know it doesn't have anything to do with the city council, but they deserve recognition here. So
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Matthew Pontuesi, I live here in Logan. Can I pass these out to you guys? I mean, I printed off a copy for each, but just a little ProPublica article if you're interested, just even to look at the title later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
if you want
give them to
Teresa, she'll
Teresa,
pass them out.
and she'll make sure we get one.
All right. But anyways, the discussion about here actually, this one is for you. So, yeah, I don't know, I just really wanted to give that to you guys and make sure that you check it out, read it, recognize that we are actually in a situation where, what's the term? People will continue to try and gaslight you into the fact that there are problems not currently going on. And if you remember correctly, that back in the day when I was a little bit more agitated and working here as a janitor, I commented on the fact that we have, racism and everything that goes unchecked here, with the fact that there was a Confederate flag being sported on the back of the truck and they were having a meet up over at one of the residential developments that were going on the west side. So I just, read the article, it's worth a read. And I don't know, it's not by me, a silly person, it's done by professional journalists. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matthew.
Good afternoon. Before I begin, I would like to transparently disclose that I am an employee of the university.
Will you state your name, please, and where you live?
My name is Dax Gove, and I've been a Logan resident since May of last year. I'm an employee of the university, but this comment and my being here are entirely of my own accord as a private citizen. During my time here, I've come to appreciate the city for what it is and accept it for what it may not yet be, but I do believe that we are human through dialogue, and that dialogue is a foundation of democracy, which is a political system that is decided by the people and the masses. I am here today to speak as a person, not as a leader, but as a fellow of all my friends and family residing in this town, valley, county, and state. I left Utah at the age of 18 to pursue my education elsewhere. Before I left, I was infected with the mountaineering bug. I spent a lot of my free time during my senior year of high school exploring the Wasatch Range and coming to know a small piece of my home state in a way I never had. I came to love it as a place that was alive, that had a beauty in itself. Contrasted with my entire life spent in the suburban expanses of the Salt Lake and Utah valleys, these early experiences with the outdoors told me something about my home that has informed essentially every life decision, from moral judgments to job choices ever since. What I have noticed in my frequent returns and final settlement in Utah is this: progress, growth, and industry are just other words for death, for forces that seek to stamp out the individual choice of the people who reside in this landscape we call Utah, both human or otherwise. I have seen Utah's capital and its surrounding areas be swallowed up in more smog, more concrete, more earth-moving machines that are in every way antithetical to the wishes of everyday honest people. What I have found in the town of Logan is that same essence I discovered before leaving Utah. Here we have a place that hasn't quite felt the same touch of progress that our urban friends down below us have. I feel that while we are not nearly as in touch with the land we live on as I would like us to be, there's still something worth preserving in what we have now. The same forces of progress and industry that are at work here and in the rest of the developed world are not what we need to make Cache Valley better. They will destroy it as they have all the other places they've touched. I'll echo the fact that democracy is supposed to be government from the people and with the people. When I think of the people I have come to know here in Cache County, I am reminded of a few that truly know the area, some of whom may be in this room. These are folks who don't know Cache County in the terms of extraction, profit, and exploitation, but people who know it in a far more authentic and honest manner. I've met naturalists and educators who have spent a lifetime in our canyons and outdoor spaces, who know every plant, bird, and stone, who care for them as they care for the human people surrounding them and depending upon them. I've met journalists who work from the ground up, from the community itself, to represent the voices that cry out each and every day against the slow violence imposed upon us by industry. I've met farmers who love the land and work with it hand in hand, who understand that leaving things alone and working with what's already here is far more efficient and effective than the imposition of industrial control. I have met people who care for this place, and that care is based on an intimate knowledge. I am here with them. I'll end on these words. Listen to the people of this county who live, breathe, and love the air, the water, and the earth. Listen to the people who do not speak English. Listen to the people who do not speak at all. Listen to the ones who are ignored, the ones who have already suffered in the settlement and development of this place. Listen to the concerns that are voiced tonight and do not agree to the proposed measures. Leave every tree, forget fossil fuels. Listen to people, not profit. Listen to life. Don't let this place be upturned and abused like so many places already are. I believe that you can. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? We will close the public comment. Oh, sorry.
Hi, I'm Simon Doan with the American Communist Party. I'd just like to say that I think the fossil fuel gas plant would be a better... Okay.
That is on the agenda,
Okay.
so you're welcome to speak to it when we talk about that, but not in the public comment period.
Well, there's a lot of ammonia in Logan, Utah, and from plants rotting in the wetlands. We have a very specific conditions, and so that fossil fuel plant should be placed somewhere where we don't have those
Like I
conditions.
said, we're not talking about that right now, so you're welcome to make a comment later.
Hi, my name's Andrea Ashby, and I've lived here for about 4 years now in Logan. I'm just a student up here, but I like to say also I speak for myself and nobody else. No accommodations with anyone else. As a student here, I study forest ecology, and I think it's just really important that we come to realize our mistakes in the past with what fossil fuels are doing and so forth. And I just think we really need to take
Again.
the air and the people.
We're talking about, this is a public comment on things that are not on the agenda,
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
so.
Okay, perfect. Well, I think we should speak for the air and for the trees and for the land and for the important things that are in our community.
Thank you.
Can I clarify something? Jeannie, is that okay?
Yes.
So our first action item does have time for public hearing, so there will be a chance to make comment on that specific project.
Yes.
It's not that we're not allowing them, we're just trying to keep them in the same,
In the
keep them
appropriate-
organized.
In the appropriate location.
So we will allow comment on the project.
Yep. Does anyone else have any comments that are not related to anything on the agenda? Thank you. We'll close the public comment period. And we'll move now to mayor staff reports. And our mayor pro tem, Craig Carlson, will be taking care of that particular item.
All right, we have a few board appointments. So on behalf of Mayor Daines, 3 different boards, a request for ratification for the following individuals. And then I'd invite them to stand as their name is called if they're present. On the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, Melissa Daly as a reappointment. Bill Peterson as a new appointment. On the Library Board, Chelsea Bittner, reappointment. Frank Stewart, reappointment. And Christopher Shear as a new appointment. And on the Water, Wastewater, and Stormwater Advisory Board, Troy Hatch is a new appointment. So ask for ratification of these appointments.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. You don't have to stay standing.
I would move ratification of the board appointments read by Craig Carlson.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll move now to item 7, council business. First item is a planning commission update, and it will be very quick because planning commission didn't meet between our last meeting and now. And the board and committee reports, we rotate among those on the board so that we can give you some idea of the kinds of committees that we serve on in addition to sitting here. I'm going to let Mark go first, and he's on the telephone. Mark, do you have a report?
You know what? All of my boards didn't meet this last month, and so I really don't have a whole lot to report. I would be happy to report next time we get together, if that works. But with the holidays and with me being out of town, I did not attend, so I do not have an update.
Okay, thank you. I am the other individual that is to report. I can say between the last time I reported a month ago and today, I attended, as did Mark and the rest of the council, the water tank public meeting that was held. I went to there was a meeting of the water board, the regular meeting of the water board that I attended. I went to 2 library candidate dinners because we are hiring a new director of our library. I attended the airport advisory board meeting where we are discussing some items with respect to hangars and accessibility in keeping our airport up, running, and healthy. I went to Historic Preservation, where they reviewed 2 buildings on Main Street for historic restoration purposes. And I just spent an hour today in a webinar about redevelopment agencies that was really very interesting. Just giving us an overview of how they can function and what their main purpose is. So, and item C is our proposed council board and committee assignments for 2025. We have a chart of committee assignments, and I don't think, because of time, I'm not going to read them off. But if everyone is okay with it, I would like you to just say, yes, I'm fine with my board and committee assignments.
Yes, I am fine with my board and committee assignments.
How about you, Mike?
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
How about you, Ernesto?
Yes.
Okay, how about you, Mark?
My assignments will be great, so I approve.
Okay. The nice part about working with this group of people is everyone is willing to do whatever. And so I worked with the mayor over the Christmas holiday, and we decided we moved neighborhood assignments around a little bit. I will be Ellis Neighborhood. You will be Hillcrest.
Wilson.
Adams.
Wilson.
Adams.
You will be Adams and Bridger. And Ernesto is Woodruff, and Mark is Hillcrest. So
Correct.
the neighborhood chairs for those particular neighborhoods will receive notice that there is a new representative from the council. We'll move now to item 8, our action items. And our first action item is a public hearing. It is continued from the December 3rd, 2024 council meeting. Consideration of a proposed resolution authorizing and approving the Power County Power Project power sales contract with Utah Associated Municipal Power Systems, otherwise known as UAMPS, and related matters, Resolution 24-47. Before I have Mark come up here and speak to this project, I do want to, we've received several comments from people, and many of the comments say, we have bad air, we don't want to build a power plant here. This project is not here. We're not building a power plant. This is a participation in a power plant development that is actually in Idaho and is being built with several communities participating in the construction and the output of that. But just to be clear. So Mark, go ahead. Come on up.
Thank you, Rich.
I'm going to pull up a slideshow and just kind of recap this project. Like Jeannie said, it's a proposed 360 megawatt plant, be located up in Idaho. Several of the UAMPS members are participants. We hope to be, but the project is going forward regardless. Our proposal is for 30 megawatts of that energy. And Yuchi's just going to share some data. Come on up, Yuchi. She's just going to share some information of kind of how we came to that number. And we'll go from there.
Jeannie, can I just interject something too? I know some of the emails we've gotten, this is the 3rd time now that we're talking about this as council, so I know a couple people emailed saying, this is a surprise, and so this is not the first time that we've talked about this. I think our first meeting, we spent about 2.5 hours on it when we workshopped it, and when we met in December, we talked again for a couple hours about it, and we did defer a decision specifically because we wanted to get the input of RESAB. I know I've gotten several emails saying that, or wondering why we did not, and that is specifically why the decision on this was postponed until now. So I just hope people who are in the audience appreciate y'all being here, but just want to make sure, I know it's hard to stay on top of what's happening sometimes within city council and what's on our agenda, but this is not a new surprise thing that's come up on the agenda today. So just wanted to clarify that as well.
Thanks, Amy.
You're up, Yuchi.
Mark told me to be quick and simple.
So, Uchi, can you just tell, for the audience, would you tell them what you do?
Okay. I'm starting working for Logan City Light and Power 20 years ago, and starting as a resource analyst. I'm now a resource manager for planning and for Logan City and forecasting for Logan City. And for our baseload need in next couple of decades, we're looking at 20-year forecast for our Logan City's baseload growth. We use very simple assumptions.
So let me just interrupt. When she says base load, we have peaks in the summer and peaks in the winter and peaks during the day, but there's a steady burn of a certain amount of megawatt energy that the city has to have all the time, and that's what base load is.
Thank you.
Okay, we use the 24 years historical growth average from 2001 to 2024, fiscal year 2025. And the base year we use is 2024, approximately peaking days base load is 53.3, we call it 54 megawatt. And the peak grows in 2044, that's 20 years from now, based on historical average in 1.07 annual growth, linear to 2044's 128 megawatt. And base load, what we use is annual peaking days base load, the very minimum need for that particular day to create an envelope for the annual base load need. Grow at 2.23% annually, linear to in 2044 to 84 megawatt. Currently, we have 53 megawatt. We have some resource expiring. Sunnyside coal-fired resource, we approximately have 5 megawatt. This project will end in 2026 with possibility of 2-year extension to 2028. And then Hunter coal-fire will end in 2032. That is 13 megawatt of capacity. And Payson natural gas generation is currently about 17 megawatt, will be end close to 2034. That is based on the average life of this kind of a facility. Usually lifespan is 20 to 40 years. We use 30 years as midpoint for the life of this project. And if for the first 15 years or so, this project was used as a peaker, which means we only needed to generate it during the peaking hours, so it's fewer running hours. Towards the end of life, this facility, this kind of facility usually has less efficient and also less reliable. So we would like to reserve it as a peaker to generate where it needed most in the last 10 years of life. So base load need for these 3 expiring projects will need about 35 megawatt to replace the base load need, even without growth in mind. Here's a simple chart of this red line is the base load need forecasted using linear growth at 2.32 growth annually. As you can see, in 2001, we only have 33 megawatt base load. And this year, this fiscal year, we have a 53.3, and 20 years from now, will grow to, according to a linear growth forecast, 84 megawatt need. This is based on if Hunter is to be online through 2032, and Nebo is assumed to be good through 2044. Scenario 2 is Nebo to be offline sooner, 10 years sooner, on 2034. Therefore, we're going to need more baseload capacity. In these blue bar are the new 30 megawatt generation, baseload generation we're going to need. When Nebo goes away on 2034, we're going to need to use almost all of our IPP and the new 30 megawatt generation, as well as partial of the new peaker generation facilities to fill in the gap for the base load. Look at it. In both scenarios, if we were to have a lower growth in peaking power, it should satisfy the need with both base load, 30 megawatt base load of natural gas generation, and 26 megawatt of this peaker. And scenario 2 is same, but we're going to need a lot more local generation here. So baseload, 30 megawatt baseload is needed to satisfy the load growth. What options do we have? Number one is, as someone suggested, we do a larger amount of block purchase, which increase the market exposure, increase the volatility, and also the short-term capacity coverage, increase the financial risk, and it will not satisfy the capacity requirement in the day-ahead market. The regulation in the industry changes a lot. It is not what it was 20 years ago, 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. There are some new rules and regulations are implementing or going to be implemented in the near future. One of the notes I received from UAMS is that the solar generation only counts for 24% of contribution to the resource sufficiency. That means if we have a 40 megawatt of capacity, when we do report the day-ahead market, we only count 1/4 of it, almost 1/4 of it, only 24% of that count as market adequacy. The second option we have is build local generation facilities, which will, of course, increase local production, especially in winter time. We know Logan's very cold. This winter is pretty mild so far, but in cold weather, we'll have an inversion here. St. George, as a comparison, extreme south part of Utah, truly doesn't have a severe inversion as we do. So they have a lot more generation capacity building locally. Currently, we have only 12 megawatt of local generation and building another 10 megawatt. So we're going to have 22 megawatt of peaking power running just a few hours during weekdays in summertime in the past to satisfy the capacity needed. And lots of times is when the market price is extremely high, we use that local generation, otherwise we use resources elsewhere. In future, when the market changes, when they have a more requirement, we may or may not be able to do that for a large chunk of market purchase. And building local facility also requires to have more gas lines, air permit, fed and local industrial and the environmental compliance requirement and bond increase, and also increase the crew for the new facilities. The third option is join the UM's combined cycle natural gas generation base load project, which is better for local air.
Can you just go back and talk a little bit? I know you mentioned like in 2022, the financial risk. Can you just share? Can you just share a little bit about what happened in 2022 when we had to go? That was when we had to go out on the open market and buy power, correct? And we had to implement our surcharge.
Right. In 2022, here's we call it triple wage condition. One thing is that in that year, December, well, of course, Russian war is have a global pressure on natural gas, and so we have liquid natural gas export. So and also there are some pipelines in I think it's in the south of Arizona area, have some pipeline explosion and therefore interruption. So the natural gas price spiked to 10 times as high as usual. And also that year we have, it's a very dry year. So the federal the Colorado storage project have very low capacity available to us in wintertime. We have only 60% of what the average year is worth. And also there was a coal mine fire, which made Hunter's coal delivery shortage. And so therefore we have 3 different kinds of resources could not deliver what the capacity says it would. And this has happened across the board. I mean, most of UM's members get affected and many cities get hacked. And we have a few months pass without charging surcharge. We talk to industrial customers, forewarning this is coming. And then the following year, we have to charge a surcharge to keep us whole. In that year alone, we over budget $11 million. And we hope that, we almost feel like it's in 2000 or 2001 when the Enron, the crisis happened, everybody's panicked. And so the entire, we often see $1,000 prices on there in real-time market, where usually in even winter season, it's less than $100. So you can see the energy price jump 10 times. So this is also emphasize the capacity adequacy. If we don't have it there, if at that time we have an extra 10 megawatt capacity in generation locally, or 20 megawatt or wherever, if we have the natural gas generation in place, capacity in place, we would have had hedged the natural gas, so would be avoid, at least in partial, the shock of the market spike.
So what does that mean? What does that translate to the average customer in the city in their bill when we are exposed to the
Fiscal year 2023, you probably see the surcharges there. That is to compensate the over cost.
So I think we did a brief calculation at one point in time, and we were thinking that it was costing the average customer $5 to $7 more a month. But so we budget an amount for our power purchases, including all these resources that we're talking about. And, you know, they don't come in We have to go to the open market to purchase, and then we say, wow, power cost us this, but we only budgeted this much. We take that difference and we spread it across all kilowatt hours in the city, so that the customers have to kind of make up what we've lost. The reason we do that is Brigham City is an example. They didn't have one in place at the time. They do now. They lost millions of dollars in 4 or 5 months, like millions of dollars. It wiped out their reserve funds, and they were on the verge of not having any more money in the city.
So for the average household, maybe $5 to $7 a month?
And it depends.
A
Yeah,
month?
yeah, yeah.
So about $60 to 70 some a year?
Per month.
Yeah, well, $60, $70 a year, yeah, 6 or
And
7.
that's only for the residential.
Yeah, so that was my next question.
Right,
For
but
commercial, what does
industrial
it mean?
customers, commercial customers see a big jump, tens of $1,000 per month of increase of the cost for the power.
Are they more like in the thousands of dollars then?
Tens of thousands. Yeah, some of our larger customers, it's a kind of a similar percentage of their kilowatt hours as it is for residential customers, just that they're such a large customer, the numbers are higher. So,
Thank you.
So the UM's natural gas baseload project is 60 megawatt of a combined cycle plant. We need 85% of capacity factor to be satisfied to participation to proceed.
I will say that this has changed. UAMPS is going to proceed with the project whether Logan participates or not.
Right. There are some new development is that some of the customers outside the UAMPS, like AMPA, are willing to pick up the rest or at least a portion of it. So it's easy to satisfy. So this project is going anyway, with or without us. Logan need 26 megawatt to, well, I guess they don't need us anymore.
Ignore the first
They don't
bullet
need us anymore. The current participant include us will be 34 members, and without the Logan, 33 members is participating, about 230 megawatt. And the pros of joining this project is the 30-something members to share the overhead, service, and risks as well. And the commercial online date is June 2031, just 1 year before Hunter expiration. They gave us a year to test, to adjusting the load forecasting and natural gas hedging, I guess, and also planning. And it's a large unit, shared O&M cost, which is operation and management cost, and it's more efficient units. The cons may be less flexible in scheduling for individual needs, like for us, for different season. It could be adjusted, but it's usually it's a flat product, 24/7, same thing product. Because it's non-dispatchable, it's close to 30 megawatt in one unit. The replacements resource and cost can be more during the scheduled or unscheduled outages for maintenance or outages. It's our recommendation to take this opportunity to subscribe 26 to 30 megawatt. This kind of project take a long time to develop. This project particularly at least 7 years. And there may or may not be another project for the next few decades for us to, the opportunity for us.
What makes you say that?
Sorry?
That there wouldn't be another opportunity? What makes you say that?
Think of that, yeah. UAMPS is planned ahead. This 360 megawatt will cover the members' baseload need for this kind of a facility. Lifespan is on average 20 to 40 years. So if we say 30 years on the midpoint to peak, I don't think UAMPS will. Well, there are actually U.S. representatives from UAMPS. There won't be another one in next 20 to 30 years unless there is something drastically unexpected to happen. This kind of project, most people do not see in their career life, twice in their career life. If you're working 30 years, maybe at the beginning or midpoint, you have seen one of this project developing, and you won't see another one. Most people working 30 years, right? 30 years. Mm-hmm.
So Uji, when you said it would accommodate the baseload for all of the members that participate, is that the reason why you say they won't do another project? Because all of those participants will have been covered?
Yes, it's covered. As we said, there are 33 out of 39 members are joining this project. The majority of the UAMPS members are joining this project, satisfy their baseload need. So there won't be a need, most likely, to.
So if we opt out of this, we either have to create that baseload through renewables, or we have to be on the open market.
There's some regulations that do not really allow you to do the without the baseload capacity being there. And one of the.
So I've mentioned this before, and it's a complicated market. It's called the extended day ahead market, or EDAM. We're going to be in that in the next couple of years. And one of the requirements of EDAM is that you come to the market with 100% of your needs plus 15% capacity over the top of that. Baseload counts towards that. Also renewables do, solar and wind and things like that. But as Yuchi mentioned earlier, and you probably didn't catch it, or maybe you did, solar towards that capacity requirement only counts for 25% of a full share, so to speak.
So why are we going to be a part of that?
Because Pacific Core is going to join it, and our transmission provider is Pacific Core.
So we have to be a part of it.
We have to be a part of it.
And solar today, for 1 megawatt of power from this project counts as 1, but 1 megawatt of solar only counts as a quarter?
Correct.
Okay.
And the extended day ahead market.
Yeah. And it shows on this graph.
The panel, sorry, I
Go ahead.
didn't. There are fines. If you don't come with that capacity, you'll be fined for what you're short. So that's.
Who is going to fine?
We would be fined.
By who?
By the extended day ahead market. So we're part of a much larger grid in the Western United States. We're not just Logan City, and we're not just UAMPS, and we're not even just Rocky Mountain Power. It's the whole Western United States is part of what's called WEC, which is a Western Electric Coordinating. We're getting way out into the weeds.
That's okay.
Just know that.
Yeah, this is one of the second bullet point is that the new market condition will require they have resource sufficiency with financial penalties for non-compliance.
So following up on the question that Jeannie had, if we're meeting everybody else's baseload needs with this project, wouldn't the open market come down in price because now their needs are met?
You know, for our capacity, we'll need a lot more than, 50 megawatt or 30 megawatt. What we're talking about here is a very minimum of our system need. And for the summer capacity, we are going to reach over 100 megawatt. By 2044, we're going to need almost 130 megawatt. And on top of that, we need 15% of additional. In this chart, the dashed line included that 15%. Say if we need 100 megawatt today, but we need to provide 115 megawatt of capacity in order to be.
So is that day by day?
Day ahead, day by day.
Day by day.
One day ahead?
Yeah.
So tomorrow, if today you needed 100 and tomorrow you figure it's just going to be as hot, you have to have 115,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Can that be supplied with large block purchases?
Maybe
Or does it have to be
pre-seasonal.
your own generation in one form or another?
No, maybe
No, if you-
seasonal purchase, that would be, but day ahead purchase.
If you've purchased it, you can.
Right,
put
but
that
like if we
in
did
the
like a seasonal
Yep.
or an annual purchase, that would qualify, but not a day of market
Not a
purchase.
moment, yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
So does wind and thermal count as a quarter as well?
I'm not sure.
They all have their the factors in there, and wind is probably worse than solar, and then geothermal may be better than solar. It's all fraction of 1 megawatt or
Okay.
percentage.
Okay. And who,
But natural gas, however, counts as 96%, so that's very reliable resource.
oh, okay.
Why are those sources weighed less than other types of
Well,
sources?
for example, solar has typically 25 to 30% capacity factor, means out of the 24 hours of the day, you get 25 to 30% of those hours in solar. And so that's why.
And it's also subject to weather. For instance, Steel B solar, we have almost 5 megawatt of capacity there. In last week, the entire week, we only received a little over 1 megawatt because of overcast. The weather.
Okay.
That
That
concludes my
concludes you. Okay,
presentation.
I'll just say a couple more things.
Okay.
I know that you received kind of a proposal from RESAB, and I want to thank, I don't know if Tyson's here, but the tool that he built is fantastic. It's, as we've gone through it and tried to make it jive with our projections, there are some things that we can't make work, and I know we can fix them, but they just aren't yet. You know, the proposal is if we put 75 megawatts of solar into our system and 60 megawatts of batteries, then that would be cheaper and obviously a lower carbon footprint. I will say that as far as base load or dispatchable energy, even that's not going to cover what we need through the night and through the cloudy days. It will cover some, and that's the reason we have these peaking plants. Also, to a degree, this proposed base load plant is dispatchable, so we can ramp it up when we need it. We can also not take it if we don't need it. But I can't do that with solar or batteries. You kind of get them when you get them, or wind, get them when you get them. And I just want to remind the council that we are working hard to increase our renewable footprint. We're involved in a battery solar storage project now. We're involved in a geothermal project. We're involved in another battery project. We're involved in a wind project. And these are all projects that are developing, much like this one. They're not quite as far along as this one because they're still trying to work out some other issues. But we're in every renewable project that we can get into. But we need dispatchable energy to back that up, because it's not 100% energy. And that's why our proposal is what it is. I appreciated Tyson's spreadsheet and the fact that his calculation, and even though I got to figure out where we're not jiving with it, he says, well, if you just do 20, you know, it would be better. It would allow for more renewables. I can't verify that yet because, like I say, I can't make all the numbers match with what we forecast. And that, our recommendation is 30 megawatts, but the council is certainly, whatever the council can stomach, we'll take it, right? If you say 25, we'll make it work, you know, it'll expose us to some more open market purchases. But this is kind of what we're proposing.
So help me understand the time frame for making a commitment as well. Like what is UAMPS, or maybe UAMPS can answer
Well,
that.
so the critical path on any project, and it doesn't matter what the resource is, natural gas, solar, wind, the critical path is getting the transmission worked out. And they can't begin that until they know who and what is involved. We're the last city. Everybody else is approved. They're in the project's going. They're waiting tonight to see if we approve this. I would say you're either in or out tonight, to whatever degree. If you only want one, we'll take one. But, you know, that, I don't know if that would help us very much. But that's kind of where we're at.
On Tyson's spreadsheet, he showed, and I could be wrong here, that if we were to participate at the full 30 megawatts that you're requesting tonight, that it would essentially limit us to a 30% renewable portfolio for the foreseeable future.
Yeah,
do you feel
I saw
like
that,
that's
and
accurate?
No, because we look at other projections that are in his spreadsheet, and they don't match with what we're showing as projections. And that's through no fault of his. He used data that we supplied to the consultant when we did our integrated resource plan. And you know how that is, you data dump a bunch of stuff to have the study done, but I don't know where it's missing. I haven't had time. It's a huge spreadsheet, but really cool spreadsheet.
It's very cool.
But somewhere we're not jiving, and so I can't speak to that. As Yuchi's done her forecast, she doesn't think that's true, but.
That you would be limited? You don't think we would be limited to the 24%?
I mean, we need baseload power. We could add hundreds of megawatts of solar, but if we can't get it at night, we still need that baseload power, that dispatchable power. So.
And also, we need, say, 30 megawatt of solar storage battery. And during the day, we'll need 40 megawatt. We really need a capacity of 70 megawatt in order to satisfy our need as well as charging the battery. You cannot double dipping the same resource. I mean, 40 megawatt, if you satisfy system need, you can't charge at the same time.
Which is why Tyson proposed a 75 megawatt, right? This huge amount of solar that would charge these big batteries to give us a 4-hour offset for our energy. But that's not a 12-hour or 14-hour offset, right? That would take you a night. And if it did, if you get a week like last week where it's overcast all week, you don't get anything out of it. And that's the advantage too of energy resources are like financial portfolios. You want stuff in a lot of different places. You don't want it all in one bucket. 75 megawatts is a big bucket. So now if you split that, said, well, let's put some in Southern Utah and some in Logan and some down here, that's a better option.
It's better off than a lot of California, so that we can use that peaking power at the peak time.
So I know the suggestion was made that a solar field could be put in at the old ponds.
Yes.
Is that, I mean, I don't know that a feasibility study has been done. I thought we were still having to hold on to those ponds for a
And I don't know
time.
that. I can't speak to that because that's the environmental department, but I know Esau approached me because he has a nephew that's a solar developer and he wanted to look at doing something there, which we're open to that. In fact, I love that idea. The issue that we have is we have to come up with a lot of capital to build a substation and transmission out that direction to accommodate that large of a solar installation. That's something we plan on doing. We think that's a good place for it. We think it's a good resource. It's behind the meter. We still pay transmission on it, because you guys have heard that argument before. But at least we don't have to fight to get through the transmission queue. Probably the biggest thing for me is just coming up with enough capital to do that. And Tyson has some stuff in there about financing it at a 6% rate and getting a bond and paying for it. And honestly, other than what I've seen on the spreadsheet, I haven't run those numbers. But, yeah.
So I know it's been talked about a couple times that there is potential for converting these to hydrogen.
Yes.
Has that actually been done to any natural gas turbine in the western U.S.?
I don't know the answer to that, but I will tell you at IPP, where we're converting coal to natural gas, there's a company called ACES that's across the street that has salt domes. They have spent millions and millions and millions to excavate those salt domes for hydrogen storage so that they can run those. They're going to be run on hydrogen, or at least partial hydrogen. That's going to happen. I think it's been done, I don't know how large of a scale it's been done, but I know it's been done. Do you know of anything, Mason, that's
Not at scale.
larger scale?
Not at scale.
But they're going to do it. I mean, they've spent way too much and invested way too much in infrastructure to not see that through.
Are there any more questions of Mark or Uchi? And do you want to hear from UAMPS? They are here.
Yeah, absolutely. We can hear from UAMPS. I also like to hear from Rich on
Can I ask a question too, Stella?
potential funding sources too. If we move forward with building our own solar, like how would we?
We have a bond guy here, we can talk to him.
I think we'd be taking donations. Because it would be very, very expensive, and that would be bonding on us. Not that this project isn't, but that would be bonding on us. We have our financial advisor here today, so he's loving it.
Mike said he had a couple more
Yeah,
questions.
I have two more questions that might turn into more. When we talk geothermal, you always say that we get outbid by higher bidders, mostly in California.
I wouldn't say outbid, they've just gone away. And I think it's because they've been offered so much money from other entities. Like, we've been in the middle of discussions, we've had letters of intent signed, and then they just disappeared. There is one that we're involved in now. That
Don't tell anyone else.
should go. Well, we're paying a premium for it. We're going to pay a lot, $100 a megawatt. But it's nice because it's geothermal.
And how much, what's the capacity for that?
We could only get 3 megawatts.
3 megawatts.
It's a fairly small installation, and all the other cities are in the same boat as us, right? So everybody says, well, I want some, I want some, I want some. And we're probably one of the bigger.
And I guess outbid might be the wrong term then. That they just know they can get more money elsewhere. If we wanted to be more competitive in that geothermal market,
I would say that.
What's that going to do to a resident's bill?
Yeah.
I know it's a very, but is that you're going from paying your 10 to 12 cents a kilowatt to 30 like California, or is that you go to paying?
No, I would think we're at least, so this geothermal is 3 megawatts, which at our peak is 100, so you're talking about a 3% of our load during peak time. So 3% of their kilowatts that they're billed for would be kind of expensive. So I would expect that to not be more than a cent or two. Now, the more we put those expensive resources in, obviously that's going to affect it a bigger percentage.
I'm going to ask one more question, and maybe this is, Yuchi, I feel like when you met with me and Mark and was it Mike that was the other one that was there? From the...
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah. It's been a month now. That you, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, that you did not feel like large block market purchases were the worst thing, the worst option.
Depends on the time of year.
Depends on the time of year.
Well,
And market conditions.
And
when
market
we're talking
conditions.
about the capacity adequacy, the market purchase is not always the best thing. In lower market condition, you might save a lot, but if you do not have the capacity if something like in year 2022, you'll be deplete your reserve and savings of probably multiple years in just a few months.
So
But we're semi-protected from that due to our surcharge, correct? I mean, not the city's protected, not the residents, but...
If we would have had a capacity like this under our belt at the time of 2022, and UAMPS had hedged the gas. We had hedged the gas, meaning we kind of prepaid for it. We probably wouldn't have passed surcharges on to customers because we would have that capacity locked down, but instead we couldn't.
But for the most part, and maybe this is a terrible thing to say, but that financial risk isn't as much on the city due to our surcharge option as it is on the residents, which is also not a great thing. I understand that. But I know there's like 50 people looking at me right now.
The surcharge keeps us whole.
Plus Mark on the phone.
We have to pass those costs on.
But it's not likely to deplete our reserves. It would just be passed on, not just, but it would be passed on to residents. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Which, again, I understand is not ideal, but we wouldn't be in a situation similar to Brigham City necessarily, where we lose years of reserves.
No.
Okay.
And also to answer your question there is that I would still feel a lot more comfortable to have base load covered. And you have 100 megawatt of peaking power, and your base load covered probably up to 45 or 50, whatever. And you still have a lot of room to purchase from market when you see the prices right. You do not want to have entirely your entire capacity exposed to market.
Sure, I understand.
Diversification is the key.
Fusion.
So to step further into the weeds, this extended day-ahead market,
It's my hopes.
if we have the resource to go into the market, the proper capacity, technically we could save money because all the entities are going to be bidding in, and we're going to get economically dispatched our energy. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope that's what happens. But
That didn't make sense to me. I don't know what economically dispatched means.
This dispatch is like
We resell it essentially.
say for natural gas generation, the peaking power is dispatchable. You can schedule it up and down according to your load shape and need. And the combined cycle base load need is not dispatchable because once it run 20% all
Okay,
the same.
yeah.
yeah.
So economically dispatchable, is that what you said?
You just say we can maybe make money on the extended day ahead market
Yeah,
if we have enough
it's
resource.
not a conversation for this meeting.
Okay, okay, I'm good.
I've had all my questions answered, but before wherever you were going to go, I want to make sure Mark, he's probably quiet there listening to us, Mark Anderson, if he has
Mark,
any questions.
have you had all your questions answered?
You know, I think most of my questions have been answered so far. I was curious to see how quickly they could convert to hydrogen. And Mike, I just sent you some information on all the hydrogen projects that are going on in the country right now. So that's fairly interesting since you're asking who is doing it. So I'm really curious about how quickly they could convert to hydrogen, whether it's a blend or it's looking like there's other states in the nation that are looking towards going to 100% hydrogen in the next 10 years. So I feel like that is a possibility, and it's one that intrigues me a lot.
I know that one of the last board meetings I was at with IPP that they anticipate the cost of energy for those who want to use the hydrogen portion of the power, it's going to cost $10 to $20 a megawatt hour more. So
To convert to hydrogen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At this point, I think that as more projects come online, that, like everything else, it has to come down.
Sure. So my other question was, if I did my calculations correct, and you know we need that 30 megawatts of base load to help fulfill the like say our peak is 100, and we need to have 115 megawatts. If we were to do that in solar, we'd have to build 120 megawatts of solar to get credit for 30. Is that correct?
It's about right, yeah. It's 24%.
Okay. That makes sense. And then my other question was, if we did do the 75 megawatts of solar, which RESAB has suggested, which I really like that idea, we'd only probably be able to get maybe 30 megawatts of battery out of it when it does run. That's why we're doing the 75, because we're going to use 30 or 40 during the day. We got to have 30 or 40 to charge those batteries, so we have that power at night. Correct?
That's correct.
And that
Okay,
battery
roughly.
only lasts about 4 hours these days on average. You do not cover the entire load of hours. At
Yeah.
least 8 hours.
Wait, you said they only
Right.
last 4 hours, the battery?
That's the typical installation now.
Okay.
Obviously, if you want to go back to 8 hours.
So at 8 at night, you'd only get till midnight off of the batteries before you had to find something else for your base load.
I'm kind of with Mark Montgomery. It's like I'd love to see us do something with the finishing ponds and do a project like that, because if we are generating our own power with the solar, we could convert our own clean hydrogen with that free energy that we'd have all the time. But it's a lot of money to do both. But I'm a firm believer we're going to need all that energy in the very near future to attract new economic opportunities in the valley. I just feel like we need it. We need it all. So I love the solar idea, and I think we really need this 30 megawatts of base load as well too. So those are my questions.
Thank you, Mark.
One final question, role of conservation and what that could potentially play over the next 30 years in terms of the projected needs. It's been
I don't
suggested
know.
that.
We've seen that come into effect now, because our load growth slowed a little bit over the last few years as people have upgraded to high efficiency appliances and LED lighting. But we're beginning to see that load grow a little quicker because of electric vehicles. Many of these new apartment complexes that you see in town are all electric, so they're heating with electric, and that's increasing the load on our system. So I wouldn't even know how to project that. I guess it seems like obviously a kilowatt conserved is the cheapest power you can get, right? Very, very cheapest you can get.
Any other questions?
I just want to say one thing though.
Okay.
People are worried about having the base load power will interfere with the renewables, and I do not see that, because all that peakers can be backed off if sunshine, and we can use that solar capacity in there, and we can back off the dispatchable resources to make room for those solar energies. And solar energy most efficiently used when they were generated. If you go convert to battery storage and then output again, that's all at the cost of efficiency. So.
So do you lose some capacity that way?
So you lose some energy during the conversion, either in and out. So the best, for me, I think the most efficient way of using is when sun shines, you use that solar, and when it doesn't shine, you use your natural gas generation to back it up. And storage is needed, in some cases, but it's not the most efficient way of using the energy.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you. Do you want the collective want to hear from you, Lance?
Sure, yeah.
They're here. It's your phone.
Come on up. Oh, you picked one.
We pick some walk-on music for people.
We'll take all of you. You can all come up if you want.
Come on, it'd make the 10 seconds less awkward.
I'm sure they'll join me, maybe.
Okay,
I'm Jason Baker. I'm the CEO for UAMPS. Good to be with y'all.
So would you share, to start with, I'm sure everyone will have questions of you, but would you share with us how give us a little history of UAMPS and why you exist and what your overall goal for energy in the future for your participants is.
Great. Again, thanks for giving us the opportunity to be here. With me here tonight, I do have Matthew Hastings, Assistant General Manager, and Jackie Coombs, Manager of Member Relations. So they're the reluctant ones that didn't come up here, but maybe called on. History of UAMPS, we were formed in 1980. We are a not-for-profit, interlocal power company. We exist for the benefit of our members. We do projects like the one that y'all are considering on a not-for-profit basis for our members, and we plan for our members. So this project was identified in an integrated resource plan that we did for the members, looking at aggregate needs of our membership and then identifying projects. So we have, for all the UAMPS members and their collective needs, we've identified certain resources to pursue. This is one of the resources. Mark identified a handful of other resources that we're actively pursuing. The geothermal project, the wind project, solar plus batteries. We're definitely taking an approach, as Yuki identified as well, towards resource diversity. And we see a lot of value moving forward long term and having a diverse set of resources for the membership. We think that's the most cost effective, most assured way to ensure that our members thrive and don't see pricing spikes like we experienced in 2022. So big picture, that's sort of what UAMPS does, what we're looking at in the future. Other trends that we see, I think that's relevant to this discussion, is electrification is happening. That will be a key to reducing nationwide fossil fuel emissions, but it's going to take time. And that also means that it's going to require more resources to meet electrification needs. It's a very competitive environment these days to meet the surge in electric demand that we're seeing. So that's another consideration that's going on as we look at new resources, what's going on with geothermal competition that we talked about earlier. We're very, very aggressive in the new resource procurement space. We'll be very aggressive probably for the next 10 to 15 years. It's one of our key strategic initiatives, and that is a change in what we've seen in our industry, because we did most of our new generation build out 30, 40 years ago, and we've been living off of those assets for the last 30 to 40 years. So that's a trend. Another one is, with all this new generation, it's more dispersed than how the grid's been built out, so transmission is going to be needed, and that's another consideration that we have moving forward, is making sure that new transmission gets built. Just to give you a little more flavor of what's going on the wholesale side. I'm happy to answer any questions. I think it's a great opportunity to be here. Obviously, the community is very engaged, so happy to answer any questions.
Go for it, if you have any.
Oh, you won't look at me. I was going to take a drink and let you guys make a comment. I mean, I guess my first question, based on what you said, is this project's been in development in one form or another for 7 years. Is that correct?
No, this project has been developed really for the last 2 years.
Okay.
That's around the time when we were sort of finishing off our integrated resource plan, where we identified significant deficiency in our baseload requirements. And the strong recommendation was to move forward with this baseload natural gas project, the peaking natural gas project, and then a suite of other renewable, non-carbon emitting projects as well to meet that diversity requirement.
You mentioned that you're looking at spending the next 10 to 15 years aggressively pursuing other resources. Are you thinking most of those will likely be renewable? Do you think it'll continue the trend of natural gas we're looking at now? What kind of portfolio do you expect that to look like over the next decade or so?
Yeah, that's a great question. And as far as moving towards maybe more natural gas, I think from a resource diversity standpoint, we probably wouldn't see that in the 5 to 7 year planning horizon after these projects come online, because we want to make sure that we don't have too much natural gas exposure within our resource mix. And the reality is that most of the new resources getting developed in the West, nationwide, frankly, tend to be renewables. So we see that trend continuing. But at the same time, we need to make sure that we meet reliability requirements that we have. I mean, that's something that we probably all take for granted, is the reliability of our electric system, and we need to make sure that we meet that, because that is our number one responsibility as a utility, is making sure we hit reliability moving forward.
Do you see other, and you're saying that they'll likely be renewable, do you see other semi-large scale projects of this nature coming online or being planned in the next 10 to 15 years? You know, about 100 megawatt plus option of something. One of the slides they had was that it's unlikely that we'll see something of this magnitude in the next 10 to 20 years. Do you think that that holds true with UM's viewpoint on it? Too many U acronyms in Utah. UM's projections, or do you see other projects of a mid to large size coming online?
And I can, Matt Hastings is the Assistant General Manager, is also over our planning function, so he can certainly amplify or correct. But as far as additional new projects of scale, yes, we're going to be looking at renewable projects that are going to be at scale in that 100 megawatt range, absolutely. But then there's probably also going to be a need in the future as we look at long-term planning horizon for more dispatchable generation, non-renewables, like dispatchable meaning we control when it's generating. And we see that sort of in the outer mid to late 2030 time period. But again, it probably would not be natural gas focused based on where we would see that fitting into the overall diversified resource mix. So that could be geothermal, could be new nuclear if that moves forward. But again, want to stick to the tenet of resource diversity.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. I think that's most of the questions I have.
So you've mentioned, she mentioned diversification is kind of key for the portfolio. What is the perfect mix?
The perfect mix of
what is the perfect? What is a good formula to have for your portfolio?
Yeah. Well, that's a really great question, and I think that every utility in the country is still trying to figure that out as we're transitioning the grid. I mean, that's what we've been doing over the last 10 years. I mean, it's been a really interesting journey so far. There used to be the mindset that the transition was going to be easy, and we're going to have all these low-cost renewables, and that was going to be our salvation. And then we start getting into this transition and realize how important these dispatchable resources are in ensuring reliability and needing to make sure that we continue to have those be part of the resource mix. So I don't have a clear-cut answer on like what's the right exact resource diversity mix. I don't think that any utility, if they told you they had it like completely nailed down, I'd be pretty skeptical of that. I think what we've learned is that there's value in resource diversity, not having too many eggs in one basket. Same goes for natural gas. We've seen those disruptions that happened in 22. We've also seen the downside of having an over-reliance on coal. I mean, that's something
when we talk about it at the UAMPS member level, that's something that maybe is also worth pointing out is our members get to choose what their resource mix looks like, just like Logan is here tonight. So we had members that did have really poor resource diversity, and that 2022, he gave you some snapshots into how that was bad for certain cities. It was really bad for certain cities that had real poor resource diversity mix.
So if this project got approved at the 30 megawatts plus the other ones that we approved, what was it, 28?
The peaker?
Yeah, the peaker, 26, 28?
20,
Mark said 26.
26?
26.
So that would be 50-some put into natural gas. Is that diversification in your eyes?
It is based on how we did the planning assumptions, because part of the planning assumptions that Matt and his team did was looking at how that fits into year-round, how Logan City would be utilizing the resource. So you do have to look at it on sort of an annualized basis to see, out of the year, how often is Logan really going to use this resource along with all the other resources. So that did factor into the recommendation that we made to Logan City.
And so I think, what's her name? Yushi said that by 2040 or 32, we would be at 84 base load. So 50-some of 84, we're looking at what? I don't know if somebody has a calculator.
60-something%.
Well, if you put it at 30, it's 54.
I know.
If you have 30 of base load in
There was 128 peaker, total with the peak.
But the peaker's not the base load. The peaker,
But he was
the
including
peaker
the
gets
peak
from the
as base.
84 to 128.
So if you've got an 84 base load and you're subscribing to 30,
30 base.
and the other ones are going offline, you have a gap of 54. So you fill that 54, there's going to be some of the things that we're already invested in are going to end up going offline in that time period, but we're going to have to come up with that 54
Yeah, but
every day.
what I'm
But
asking,
if our need is 84 megawatts of base load and we have a 30 megawatt subscription, we're still looking at a roughly 30%, slightly more, usage of natural gas.
and
in
between
our
the two of them, it would be more than, 60%?
Right, but the peaker brings us up to the 128, not
Brings up to our peak
84.
power, not our base
We
load,
don't use it in base load calculations at all.
but we use it.
We don't, however, that recommendation from RESAP suggested or recommended, we looked at it as a flexible resource that meets some of the base load needs, more than just at the peaking.
Yeah, I don't know whether the project,
Yeah, and that's not,
does the Millard County project have the option of becoming base load power?
I mean, we could
It
use it as a
can
base
run in a baseload fashion, technically speaking, yes.
just less efficiently.
It's less efficient.
So it costs more.
and cost more.
Costs
Yeah.
more and
Yeah,
is less efficient on fossil fuel usage as well, correct?
correct.
More emissions and more costs.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, you got help behind you.
Yeah.
Just for backup, I'm good.
So I had asked a question earlier just about timeline, so just to clarify, like a decision point is tonight in order for you all with UAMPS to move forward with the project, like you need our commitment today
For us to be part of it.
for us to be part of this.
Yes, and to give you sort of the UAMPS organizational perspective on that is that, obviously the 34 members that have signed the power sales contracts for this project are ready to move forward. If Logan doesn't want to proceed, then that's helpful information for us to then know and then figure out where we're going to place that capacity, whether it's with UMPA, as Yuki mentioned, or it's somewhere else.
Okay. So there are people out there that want to participate.
outside of UMs.
Yes.
outside of the 39 members.
Hypothetically, if we continued this motion, not saying we're going to the 21st of January, and then approved it on the 21st of January, you would not let us participate at that point?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's,
Okay.
I think that's, realistically, it's not like we sign ownership agreements with external parties in 15 days or whatever that is. So, to be clear though, we would like Logan to participate.
Sure.
And, have looked at, again, from a resource planning perspective, and think that our recommendation, to reiterate, is that yes, participate.
Are you able to share some of the other communities that are participating?
Sure, yeah, they've passed their power sales contracts through open public meetings, and I would probably embarrass myself if I tried to identify all 34. I could do it, but it might be
Just give me a few, just a few.
So I guess working from here, so Iron's approved. Then going south from here, we've got Brigham City. Who's next south of there? Bountiful.
Beaver Basin, Lehigh, Murray, Springville, Payson.
Sure. So there were 4 that are not. You've got 39 members, there's 34 in. The other 4 decided not to be a part of this project, or they were not invited, or
not
part of the club?
That's a little complicated because we have 50 members total. Okay. Some members join UAMPS just for sort of like association purposes. Every member that's taken this power sales contract that Logan is considering for approval has approved it. Okay. So that's...
Glad to be the difficult ones.
No, this is what public power is all about, seriously.
And I believe Mark explained this already, but for people that maybe haven't heard the explanation, what is the difference between a power purchase contract and a power sales contract?
Sure. Yeah, so the power sales contract that City of Logan is considering has the obligation for the city to pay for any and all costs associated with developing the project. And that is the contract that UAMPS uses to secure, collateralize the bonds that we will issue for developing the project. So there'll be long-term tax-exempt revenue bonds for financing the project.
And so Logan becomes part owner of this project?
Ostensibly through, and they'll have the contractual arrangement, and then once all the contractual arrangements are met and the project's being retired.
And so as part of that ownership comes maybe liabilities that usually don't come in a power purchase contract? Is that correct?
Yep.
Why should we be willing to absorb those liabilities?
Sure. No, that's a great question. And this, your question kind of gets to another aspect of long-term resource planning. That's something that we're very focused on. With sort of all the renewable development that's been happening, most of that development has been contracted for through power purchase agreements because there's a very strong developer community. And there's pros of going the power purchase agreement route. Yes, you avoid those liabilities that you identified, but you also lack control. And we haven't always had the best experience working long-term with developers. And when you think about it, they have different motivations than we do. We're going to be here for 40 plus years. Developers, they change hands. They sell those assets, and you're dealing with a new entity and dealing with all the operational day-to-day issues. So there's different motivations they have. But when we're sort of going through an exercise of trying to figure out what is the right ratio between owned versus power purchase agreement assets that we have. And these would be owned assets, and we see that being beneficial. And we also, for the last handful of years, we've really just been focusing on power purchase agreements. And yes, they have less liabilities, but they also, we found, have come with some headaches. We ran into those when we were working through COVID supply chain issues. The developer, I should say, was working through them on all the solar projects we brought online in the last 3 to 4 years. All those projects were at least a year to 2 years delayed. And they were challenging projects to bring on. You don't have the visibility on how the project's getting developed. You can do as much as you want there and try to develop those relationships. There's different.
You're just merely a customer.
Yeah, you are. And we're a utility, and we're going to be here a long time. Developers are not aware of any not-for-profit developers. So different mindset.
Any other questions?
Can I ask one more? It's kind of a hypothetical. Sorry, Jeannie.
Yes, you can. Of course you may.
You got me for a few more years. If we didn't participate in this project, is it possible to buy some of the power through a power purchase agreement? Is that, I mean, you'll be selling to other entities.
Mm-hmm.
If we had reservations of 30 years commitment to natural gas, but we turned around in 6 months or after it's developed, years from now, we said, hey, we need 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever of a power purchase agreement. There will be excess power that you are planning on selling to entities outside of UAMPS. Is that correct? We might be able to.
Yeah.
Does my question make sense? I'm sorry.
It makes sense.
Poorly worded.
No, it makes sense. To be clear, when we talk about some of the discussions we're having now externally, if Logan does not participate, those are ownership arrangements.
It was ownership.
We are not actually thinking we would be reserving some of the output
that makes sense.
To contract through power purchase agreements. So that is not our current game plan, if you will, moving forward.
It's all power sales.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah, no.
I can ask more hypotheticals if you want me to.
Go for it.
I won't.
I'm a recovering attorney, so
I mean, I'll ask a ridiculous hypothetical that Mark doesn't like when I ask. But you have a different perspective, and you guys are experts in your field. Do you foresee an increase, decrease, or no change in renewable production over the next 4 years for unspecified reasons?
it sounds like a political question.
It's not. But do you foresee a change in the renewable markets?
Yeah, no, I mean, let's just be direct on it. So a very significant incentive for renewable development right now is the Inflation Reduction Act that was passed in 2022. And the incoming administration has identified that they do want to move forward with a very large tax rate. They need to have pay-fors to sort of do that balancing act. The Inflation Reduction Act is being considered to be that tool where they're able to justify some of the tax breaks. So yes, the renewable development community is very concerned about what happens in the next little while. That's just the reality. We don't know. I mean, it may change. It may not. But it will be interesting. And there's a lot of projects that we're pursuing that will fall under what they refer to as safe harbor, where they're going to be able to capture those existing benefits in the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, that's just.
But moving forward, new projects are more tenuous because they don't know whether they have any funding base.
Yeah, it's uncertain. I mean, that's why, that's one aspect when I say it's a very competitive procurement environment. That's, one factor that makes it hyper-competitive.
Right.
But the linear demand that's being projected, you're pretty confident with what Yushi identified as our continuing increase?
1.7% a year.
Pardon?
Your load growth, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we're confident in it. We're seeing a lot of load growth within our member communities. These are nice places to live.
Yeah, they are.
Thank you for answering all my questions, even the hypotheticals. I don't have any more, Jeannie.
Okay, thank you so much, Mason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Unless you have any outbursts you want to make, we will open the public hearing. This is a public hearing. You are more than welcome to come up. We will only allow 3 minutes per person. And we would appreciate it if you are sitting there and somebody says what you were going to say, try not to repeat it. It just,
Raise your hand in support.
yeah, it just, that'd be fine. And we'll go as long as we need to.
I'm Patrick Bowman, I live in Logan, and I want to thank everyone for being here. I first learned about these fossil fuel plants the afternoon of the last city council meeting. And I was surprised I had not been brought to the Renewable Energy and Sustainability Advisory Board. That's precisely what that board was set up to do, is to help advise on these types of issues. And the $500 million is a big commitment. Nevertheless, I came to council and I made 2 points I just want to reiterate quickly here. One is that there are so many deeply concerning things already happening in our climate. And that's the foundation for our economy, our health, our quality of life. Every bit of carbon we put in the air makes it worse, every bit. Talk about reliability. I want to make sure these young people in this room have a reliable future. The second point that I made was that the energy sector is rapidly changing. There's lots of innovations in renewable energy and energy storage. Costs of fossil fuels are highly uncertain over the next 3 decades and will likely be very volatile. Renewables are already cheaper, and the cost of renewables and storage keep coming down. My last-minute plea, despite my last-minute plea, the $200 million proposal passed. And while I disagree, it's understandable why the council reached that decision. Virtually no time or notice was provided to vet the proposal. Sustainable alternatives were not seriously considered, and the decision felt urgent. Mark said he didn't bring these proposals to RESAB and pressured you to make a decision quickly because there was just no time. But I have here minutes from January 17th UAMPS meeting showing that Mark started this process a full year ago. By July, UAMPS was well along in the planning. By September 13th, the contracts were developed. There's an email here from Mark on September 13th showing that he was already changing the amount that Logan wanted to buy. A full month later, he came to a RESAB meeting and told us that he would update us on potential projects at our December meeting, which is 3 days after he was going to ask you to approve it. There was plenty of time, even if the timeline changed with the election, there was plenty of time for Mark to have been more upfront about this. And we could have had a much better conversation. He avoided talking with the experts, and he manufactured some urgency here. There's no reason to be hiding the plan if it was really in the best interest of Logan. It's clearly not. Not in cost, not in sustainability, not in flexibility, not in risk minimization, not in supporting our local economy. So one question to you is, what level of deception is really acceptable in situations like this in government? That's a separate issue from what you have to decide on tonight. Regarding the immediate decision before you, I understand the proposal for this gas plant might seem like a practical choice, a bridge between where we are now and where we want to go. But let's be honest, it's not a bridge. It's a commitment to an energy source that keeps us tethered to a path that we know is unsustainable. This isn't just about carbon emissions. I'd ask for 1 more minute.
Give him 1 more minute.
This isn't just about carbon emissions, although they matter deeply. This is about who we are as a community. Building a fossil fuel plant in this day and age is easy, but it's digging our hole deeper. It says we're okay putting short-term convenience over long-term stewardship. I believe Logan's better than that. I believe this council and this community has the courage to take what I agree may be a harder path to get to where we need to be. A path that requires innovation, but is investing first and foremost in locally generated renewable energy. Think about where that better path gets us. Instead of locking ourselves into decades of pollution and relying on fuels from far away, local renewables invest in our own community and businesses, create jobs right here in Cache Valley, and take advantage of all this beautiful sunshine, mountain breezes, and geothermal energy that we've got right here. The choice before you isn't just about energy. It's about vision. It's about integrity. Will Logan lead, or will we choose to drag our heels? Will it be a community that acts boldly or one that hesitates until it's too late? Let's choose progress. Let's choose sustainability. Let's choose a future we can be proud of. Yes. Thank you.
I will ask that you do not clap.
That's a violation of our First Amendment right.
At the back of your agenda, there is some rules for our meeting. It just takes
Way more time.
it takes way more time, and we understand that everyone, as people come up, they're going to say things, and if you'll just let us absorb what is being said, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
My name is Elizabeth Bruner. I'm a Logan resident.
Hear you.
Sorry. My name is Elizabeth Bruner. I'm a Logan resident. And I understand that baseload power options are really limited. We have 6 of them. We have coal, we have oil, we have natural gas, and we have geothermal, hydro, and nuclear, hydropower and nuclear. Only 3 of these are carbon-free: geothermal, hydropower, and nuclear. If we're going to reach our decarbonization goals, we shouldn't be investing $300 million in a project like this that's natural gas, dependent on natural gas. There was talk, can we convert it to hydrogen? As of right now, that's unknown. Hydrogen interacts differently with different metals, and it makes them brittle. So if you were going to try to turn this into a hydrogen plant, you would have to completely redo it. And if this is, as of right now, and if this is a project that we own, we'd be committing ourselves to reinvesting in the project to turn it into hydrogen. So it doesn't make financial sense. I think we need to invest in a carbon-free power project. For example, Fervo Geothermal has a Cape Station project that is producing 400 megawatts of power. It's coming online in 2026 with full-scale production in 2028, and it also has a 90% capacity factor. Nuclear, which is coming online, also has an above 90% capacity factor. So we need to move away from fossil fuels for price stability as well as national security. We don't want to be investing in something that's a volatile market, and I think that we should take more time to make this decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Hello, I'm Charles Ashurst. I'm a resident of Logan, and thank you for giving me the time to make a couple of points. First, I'd like to bring up geothermal energy. Did you know that the Utah Geological Survey estimates that Utah has 49,400 megawatts of geothermal energy potential? And I know this is, you may think that geothermal, oh, that's just a kind of a boutique energy that's a rare thing, but that's first generation. I'm talking second generation geothermal. And this is not just some dream of the future. No less than Donald Trump's current pick for Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, is the CEO of Liberty Energy, which in 2022 partnered with the geothermal startup Fervo Energy. And they are currently working on a 400 megawatt station of enhanced geothermal energy, and it's expected to go on grid next year and be at full capacity by 2028. And so is there a risk associated with geothermal? Well, of course, but it's also a risk to commit ourselves to a 30-year commitment that has no off-ramp. And so I think this is a good risk to wait for this geothermal energy. And also I would like to reiterate what former speaker said, that while gradual climate change on planet Earth is a thing that has always been with us, it always has been and always will, today's rapid climate change is not normal. And we need to realize that virtually everything in our economy, agriculture, recreation, health, depends on a stable climate. And can we guarantee a stable climate by ceasing our greenhouse gas emissions? No, but at least we cannot deliberately, knowingly destabilize our climate. And so the question is, does Logan City want to be part of the problem or part of the solution? And I've dedicated my life to being part of the solution, and I urge the city of Logan to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Hi, my name's Alana Nassiger. I'm a resident of Logan. And thank you, members of the council, for everything you do to keep us healthy and safe here in the city. I'm a former Logan High School student, and when I was in school, I was part of a club called LEAF, which is the Logan High Environmental Action Force. And a few years after my time, along with mentorship from Jack Green, in 2016, the Logan City Council unanimously approved a resolution created by Logan High School students to clean our air and protect our climate. I have a copy of that.
Thank you.
And I would just like to read a few of the things from the resolution. So this is a resolution supporting policy and activities which address air quality and climate change. Whereas the Logan City Corporation has demonstrated its commitment to improve air quality and reduce greenhouse gas emissions through the formation of the Renewable Energy and Conservation Advisory Board, RECAB, creation of a conservation coordinator position to support transitioning to cleaner sources of energy through conservation, efficiency, solar, and other forms of renewable energy, combined with clean vehicle deployment on a community scale, and whereas climate scientists worldwide are in near unanimous agreement that the planet is warming rapidly, and this must be slowed to prevent the development of a climate that is perilous to human civilization, numerous species, and the global biosphere we all share. And now, therefore, be it resolved, the Logan City Council and Mayor of Logan City will continue their programs, projects, and activities which will immediate and near term, 1, make the transition from fossil fuels less onerous to consumers and to the economy by supporting policy which addresses long-term economic viability on the local, state, and national level. 2, encourage individuals and corporations to produce and use less fossil fuels as Logan City has done. 3, continue support for RECAB, the conservation coordinator, and the current programs and projects for the coming decade. And then skipping a few. 11, inventory global warming emissions in city operations, set reduction targets, and create an action plan. And 12, make energy efficiency a priority throughout building code improvements, retrofitting the city facilities for energy efficiency and lighting.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lizzie Belmont. I'm a Logan, Utah, well, obviously Utah citizen. I'm 15 years old, and as a young person, I find it devastating and bewildering that the prospect of expanding the fossil fuel industry is even up for consideration. I have my entire life ahead of me, and you all right here, right now, have a say in what quality that life is. Fossil fuels are not justifiable just because of the energy they give us or the money they save us. They are inexcusable because of the obviously detrimental impacts they have on our planet. It would be unforgivable for us as a community, for you as leaders and representatives of this community, to let projects like this one continue. The bottom line, even with all the facts and figures that make it look like this will turn out better for society in the end, we have to stop using fossil fuels. And shutting down this project is the vital way to start. It's the way to start. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paul Rogers. I'm a resident of Logan, live just a few blocks from here.
I'm very disappointed. Your integrity's on the line. This gentleman's integrity's on the line. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. We have a serious problem here. Does Logan City have a conservation emergency plan for peak energy use? We should. I haven't heard it talk about. Yuji presented a slide with the words, what are our options? The options were very narrow. I didn't see conservation on there. I don't think I saw a renewable option on there. Did other people not see a renewable? Now you guys show hands. Did you not see renewable options on the what? Yeah, that's kind of what I saw. These are the people that we're trusting. Conservation, as Mr. Montgomery said, is the cheapest energy source. Where is our plan for that? Where? Let's come back to our integrity. I'm upset. I could use abusive words right now. I won't. You ask, this town prides itself on fiscal responsibility. I don't know if many of the people in the audience know that we run a lot of committees on volunteerism. The expertise on the RESAB board is high. Our bench is deep. I'm not near the top of that bench. There are some really talented people. We didn't hear about this decision, which we're told was already made, till a few days before. We weren't consulted. The first two words are in RESAB are resources and energy, renewable energy, I'm sorry. The middle word, which I am most focused on, is sustainability. The advisory board part, apparently you didn't think was important. You stomped on us. Mr. Montgomery ignored us. Ignored us. The level of expertise on that board is stellar. Now you want us to keep coming back and doing things for free for this city. High-level advice. And you already voted on committing us to nearly half of this giant budget, long-term commitment. Tonight I'm resigning from this board. You've told me you don't care about my experience and knowledge. You told the other people on the board that you don't care. Really? I guess we'll leave that as rhetorical. I put in a lot of time and energy on a volunteer basis, and you don't care. Unless you give me some other reason why I should stick around and advise and help advise, then why should I? You don't care, and you don't care about our integrity, so I really wonder about yours. I certainly wonder about the integrity of our power department in this town. This isn't the first time we've been to a place like this, with this particular organization, with the Energy Commission and for the city. Thank you.
So, Jeannie, I know we usually don't interrupt, but Paul, I do want to just remind you that we did defer this decision specifically because we wanted to hear from RESAB. We do value the advisory capability of this. No, this is not an opportunity to get engaged. I just want to reiterate for the audience that we did specifically vote in December to defer this to make sure that that RESAB had the opportunity to look at it.
Fair enough. I want to correct you on that because you didn't on the first part of the decision. And I find that disingenuous. I'm sorry to admit. That's really hard. Fair enough, though.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin McLennan. I live in downtown Logan. I want to talk about opportunity, and I think Logan City has an opportunity to embrace change as something monumentally beneficial, not just for our city, but to become an example for other small cities and towns invested in protecting their kids and their kids' futures, right? That's what this is about. The assumption that alternative energies will fail us during periods of peak load is simply false. We know that. Additionally, we know that most of the problem is in our grid, one developed to accommodate infinite flows of fossil energy unable to support our way of life moving forward. The city should consider wind, geothermal, solar, nuclear, right? The list goes on, and battery storage technologies that are available to us that will ensure our climate's health, promote quality, safe, high-paying jobs in and around our area, and recognize our community's fierce desire against this decision, right? I think that's pretty clear. Additionally, really above all, I want to ensure the city sees this as a moment to get better, do better, and plan smarter. We do need diverse energies to power our way of life, but we do not need to be locked into natural gas plants that pull us back to the energies of the past. I urge council to vote no on the proposed resolution and instead consider recommendations from RESAB and others who have spoken today, and hear the residents invested in seeing the city commit to responsible energy development and take the time to investigate and invest in residential and commercial renewable energy efficiency incentive programs, virtual power plants, right? That's a whole solution to solving our grid problem. We've also got residential and commercial renewable energy efficiency incentives, locally and community-owned power options, and other highly viable alternatives that we haven't heard about today that will protect our future and our energy needs moving forward. If at all possible, I also urge the City of Logan to investigate the Utah Renewable Communities Program, which is 19 communities in Utah, given all Rocky Mountain Power customers, but they've been able to come together and procure 100% renewable energy for their communities. It's awesome. Google it. That's all. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right, thank you. I'm Rob Davies. I've been a member of this community for about 34 years now. And I do have some history with this issue in this town. In 2007, when IPP3 was proposing to expand their coal production plant, that was put in front of the council at that time. And lots of pressure to approve it. And the then council chair decided to table it to council and say, let's study this for 13 months, which they did intently. And after 13 months, I think they were quite nervous about it because coal was on the rise. This is 2007. I mean, it was at its peak. And they said, no, we've got time. We're going to take some time to study it. They voted to not do the participation in IPP3, and over the next 5 years, that decision was vindicated. They, as coal began its decline. They also created the Renewable Energy Advisory Board, which has gone through several different name changes, of which I was a member, founding member for the first 6 years. And I would argue that that work, and not just that work, but that commitment to let's figure out how to do something new, opened up all kinds of new pathways that we would not have explored had they gone down that route. It was harder, as Patrick said, but it opened up new dimensions. Once you constrain yourself, it turns out we're pretty creative. I want to thank Logan Light and Power and UAMPS for keeping the lights on in my house and all of that. You guys do that work very well, but you're very narrowly focused on just providing the energy affordable that people need that they're telling you they need. The City Council has a different role, which is a vision for a community. And it's interesting that when you're working in that narrow boundary lane, you can't answer questions like, what's the perfect mix? In a time of climate constraint, as Patrick very eloquently stated, and Caitlin as well. But if you're working from a wide boundary perspective of the health of our communities, the health of us as we move forward, that's a really easy question to answer. The right mix is zero fossils. And once we commit ourselves to that, we will figure out how to do that. There's lots of data and lots of precedent to that. So I would simply urge this council, there's a temptation to say, well, what can Logan do about climate? You know, we just are a few tens of megawatts. In 2007, when Logan rejected further coal participation, that sent shockwaves throughout the West. It made national newspaper headlines. Tiny little Utah community decides we're done with fossils. We want to find something else. So we punch above our weight when we make visionary decisions. I would argue that would be the case if we did so again. We have some time. We have, as you've heard, expertise here. We have created this whole board that has been completely bypassed in this particular issue. And the notion of tabling it for a month, I appreciate that that was done, but the month of December? When this clearly requires a period of study. Lots of questions have been raised on that point. There are other options in front of us. You've been given no time to study them. With a wide-bound review, and thank you for the extra few seconds, I think we have precedent to say we have the way to study this. There's reason to study it. Let's just take a breath before we make this huge financial and environmental commitment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Oliver Parker. I'm a resident of Logan, and every morning my wife and I would look outside the window towards the mountains to see if it's going to be a good day or not. If we can see the mountains, we're going to enjoy breathing today. If we can't, we're not going to enjoy being outside. I graduated from USU this last year, and I love it here. I've loved this Cache Valley, and I've loved how innovative the school is, how innovative our city is, and I feel like this is an incredible place to live. We have an opportunity to innovate here, to be an example to our residents of energy innovation, of doing something really incredible like we did with coal back in 2007. We made a commitment, the city made a commitment to reach 50% renewable energy by 2035, I think it was 2035, and this will keep us from doing that. This is the opposite of innovation, and this is the opportunity to take advantage of these price decreases that are happening. Battery prices have gone down 97% in the last 30 years, and they're going to continue going down. I can provide some sources afterwards if you'd like. And natural gas is set to keep increasing in price over the next few years. We really have an opportunity to be an example to our residents of cleaning the air and proving that we can do really great things with our energy. And it's in your guys' hands to make that decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver.
Hi there. My name's Ethan Payne. I moved to Logan in 2015 to attend USU, and I graduated in 2022. And against the odds, I ended up staying in Logan. My partner and I were able to buy a house last year, and I'm so lucky to have found community here in this wonderful town. But a big part of why that's against the odds, why I have to say that, is because so many of my classmates and my friends see Logan as a place that's kind of stuck in the past. I have so many younger friends who just can't wait to leave Logan because they want to move somewhere that's going to take them seriously. This environmental issue is deeply serious, and we need to start paying attention to people. That's a reason we don't have so many young people here, except for when school's in session. If you want them to stick around, you have to pay attention to what we're advocating for. Please. This is important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jairo Hernandez. I lived here in Logan for 20 years. I miss the cold winters, obviously, but I just wanted to say that I don't think that this would be a good investment for Logan City. I would liken it to investing in a factory that builds fax machines. Nobody's going to use it in the future. And the reason why I say that is even just today, funny thing to say, it's Enron just released a portable home nuclear reactor that will hopefully power future homes with nuclear power. So I would just say that there are more avenues to contemplate instead of investing in a project like this.
My name's Wes Mangum. I'm a citizen of Logan. I work in the energy industry every day, Monday through Friday. I show up and I work with specifically municipalities and cities that are working to solve these problems that we were presented on today. And I'm not talking about the environmental problems. I'm talking specifically about solving base and peak demand. Watch these cities and these municipalities do it. I sit on these meetings. They're doing it and they're receiving the economic benefits. They're also receiving the benefit of the environmental impacts avoided, of delivering the future and the vision that their citizens want. But those are byproducts to that first benefit, the economic benefits. And this is not, it's not some mysterious thing. I mean, one city a few weeks ago procured 50 megawatts of renewables. City very similar in size and annual energy usage to Logan City. 50 megawatt deal. Didn't solve the entire problem by itself, but it took a big chunk out of it, just like 50 megawatts would here. Part of what's so concerning to me is that we get presented such a narrow set of solutions towards this problem. I can't say if that, myself, I can't say if that's by intent or that just happens, but it's pretty indisputable that that is what's happening. Another thing that is indisputable is that it is shameful, the amount of obfuscation that happened to prevent the RESAB board from being involved in this. I mean, the receipts are there, it can be tracked, and I think that in itself is shameful too. And I think we're at a very pivotal moment now where we can decide if we're going to slow down and approach this in a way that's feasible, that has economic benefits, or if we're going to rush forward under that same shameful approach that's been taken so far. And so I just hope, that we can all take the time and look at ourselves and the integrity that was mentioned earlier and take an accounting of that and just make the right decision, because this really is as big as a single decision that we can make in one moment that will carry a lot of impacts for the future, for 40 years. And I know that we all understand that. And I just join everybody in pleading that we can slow down and consider that.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Janicki. I moved to the island in 1986, and I just barely heard about this issue, so I don't have some eloquent essay, but I just wrote down some questions that came up during the presentation, and one of them is this is really a very complicated issue. Energy transmission is a complicated issue, and I am amazed that this seems to be a really high-pressure sales tactic. This feels like a take it or leave it kind of option that I expect at a used car business and not from an energy consortium. And I was glad to hear that you could delay your decision, but just 1 month may not be enough, because it sounds like it's such a complicated issue. You need your board or maybe an outside consultant if you'd like somebody else to look into this. It seems like a really big decision, especially because looking at it briefly, it seems to be in very, very early stages of development. And to require that you commit with no off-ramp at such an early stage seems irresponsible to me, especially because liabilities haven't been discussed. So one that came to mind is Logan ready to take on the liability of paying for range fires that might be started by these transmission lines that are coming from great distances now? You're not just looking at more local sources of energy, and by being, I understand you're more responsible now, that might be a liability you'd have to consider. I think there was another one I thought of. Liability of maybe industrial accidents that could happen at the plant. Is that something that Logan and your citizens want to be exposed to? Is that a wise decision? I don't know the answer, and that seems like something that you might want to have your board or consultants consider. I guess those were the main things. I agree with most of the prior speakers as well, but I urge you to pause and review this carefully. And I would expect UAMP to wait for you. And if not, then it's maybe a bad business decision. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Good evening. My name is Jordan Taft. I have lived in Logan for the last 5 years. I'm here to voice my concerns in opposition to the proposed natural gas power plant. While I understand the need to ensure reliable energy for a growing city, I believe this project carries significant risks that outweigh the benefits. First, the financial risks associated with this plant are substantial. The cost of building and operating a natural gas facility is tied to volatile fuel prices, which could lead to higher energy bills for Logan residents. According to the Union of Concerned Scientists, fossil fuel-fired power plants are becoming increasingly uneconomical to operate due to declining wholesale electricity prices and competition from cheaper resources like renewables. Furthermore, a report by Rocky Mountain Institute warns that by 2035, over 90% of proposed gas plants could become uneconomical compared to clean energy portfolios, potentially leaving Logan with a costly stranded asset. Second, this project raises serious concerns about public health. Northern Utah already struggles with poor air quality, and a natural gas plant would add pollutants that can exacerbate respiratory and cardiovascular illnesses. Though this power plant is located in Idaho, air knows no boundaries, and air pollution will certainly not respect man-made lines. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency highlights that emissions from gas-fired power plants contribute to heart attacks, asthma attacks. I have asthma, and air quality is one of my triggers, so personally I'm very invested in this as well. And strokes. Additionally, a study published in Environmental Health found that individuals living near fuel-fired power plants have significantly higher hospitalization rates for asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and acute respiratory infections. Do we really want to introduce another source of pollution that could harm the health of Logan residents? Finally, there are better, more cost-effective alternatives to meet Logan's baseline energy needs and future energy needs. Renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and battery storage are not only cleaner, but also increasingly affordable. A diverse portfolio of renewable energy technologies are capable of meeting baseline energy needs. Additionally, expanding energy efficiency programs, such as incentives for energy-saving appliances or better insulation, can reduce demand and save money for both the city and its residents. These solutions align with the long-term financial stability and healthier outcomes for our community. This decision is about more than just today's energy needs. It's about protecting the financial and physical well-being of Logan's families for decades to come. I urge the council to carefully consider the economic and health risks of this project and to prioritize solutions that truly benefit our community now and in the future. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Hi, Matthew Patuesi. I don't necessarily live in Logan, by the way. First off, I want to point out the fact that instead of seeing the earlier commentary on this specific topic during the public speaking period as double dipping inside of the whole commentary, you should see it as a double dose of some needed medication, adrenaline of sort, to actually wake yourselves up a little bit about the critical nature of these issues. Feel free to push a little bit harder on the questions. You didn't ever get that full answer of what the ideal mix of energy is supposed to be. And ideally, they should be saying zero on the green energy, because even you guys were whispering amongst yourselves that there was going to be an onslaught of commentary about the environmental impact if the power plant was here inside of it. But it seems to be fine if it's over in Idaho instead. I don't think the environmental issues changed just because the location changed. It's continuous because it's emissions that we're worrying about specifically, and spills and all the like. When it comes to the inconsistency of solar energy, you're only getting 25% because of nighttime. I'm curious, we never saw the percentage of energy being used by businesses. So like those tend to have a higher load on business than your simple residences, but apparently we get to blame them for their high expenditures on residences. So, if their energy bill goes up, then that's totally on them. They're at fault for that. But businesses, they're totally fine to rack up those prices. All these issues are connected, including these bonds that are going to be coming up in discussions. Don't cut me out because I'm talking about something else right now. But bonds are coming up, and that is an easy way for people to circumvent taxing and everything like that. It's like, oh, it's an IOU and everything, as opposed to being like, yeah, you live in this town. You owe us for living in this town, right? That's your logic for the situation of putting all the blame for high energy consumption on the residents. Solar energy, though, 25% claim. I'm interested, too, how much of that would end up being reduced if we actually had funding for residences to actually have solar energy, because we frequently hear about the fact that people sell solar energy to the power grids. It means that there's a surplus frequently on that regard. Batteries are doing better. What is it? I don't know. There's just a lot that comes into play. This is all connected. Workers' rights is involved in this situation, instead of having to deal with companies continuously working 24/7 and running up that energy bill continuously like that and requiring that people are up 24/7. We can use that energy instead for critical needs like hospitals, for emergency situations like that. It's all connected. I can keep going on and on and on, but everybody's been doing very great talking about this. I haven't seen anybody that's like, oh yeah, we need to make sure that this jingling sound continues inside of your ears, that fancy noise. I'd rather sit here and have fun picking up little, walnut seeds and everything. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kirsten Reither. I'm a student at Utah State University, but I've lived in Cache County for 20 years. I grew up here. And I have a lot of thoughts on this issue, but a lot of people have already spoken, so I'm going to try not to restate points. I'll start with a personal anecdote. When I was in elementary school, my dad was really concerned about the effect that the air quality in the winter would have on my health. I don't have asthma, I don't have a breathing health condition, but I mean, scientific research shows that poor air quality is damaging to the human body. And so when I was in elementary school, there were winters where I would miss days or even weeks of school because we would rent a condo in Bear Lake, so I didn't have to be in the air. Which might seem to you guys like, yay, vacation. No. I was a very anxious student. I hated missing school. When I was in 3rd grade, I missed the auditions for the school play. I loved musical theater. I missed the auditions for the school play. I wasn't able to be in it that year because of the air quality. Yeah, I think it really said something that every single person who's spoken that wasn't directly involved in this project has spoken in opposition to it, and I'm sure that that's a common occurrence. You know, you have a proposal, of course people who are angry about it are going to be the ones to come and speak, but not a single person out of, you know, the 20 that have come up to spoke have had a good word to say about this. And I feel that a lot of the renewable options have been dismissed in ways that are not dismissed for this this power plant. You know, it's too expensive. It would be expensive to invest in renewables. This is a $500 million proposal. It's risky. You know, what if the power grid goes down? What if the sun isn't shining? Natural gas has to come from somewhere. Are we drilling for that domestically? Are we hurting our environment in the United States for that, which is obviously unpopular? Very subject to what administration is in office, right? Those regulations change. Or are we relying on foreign fossil fuels? Russia, the Middle East. Obviously, both of those areas are in conflict right now. That's not a sustainable source of power. The argument seems to be that these fossil fuels are more reliable, and I just long-term don't think that that's the case. I think that there's going to be an adjustment period, but I think that long-term renewable energy sources are going to be much more reliable and obviously sustainable. And that's just the vision of the Logan that I want to live in if I'm going to stay here after college. I don't want to stay in a Logan that buries its head in the sand about international conflict and human health. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Janice Bettinger. I'm a 33-year resident of Logan and Cache Valley. I wanted to remind everyone that a webpage just updated on January 3rd, 2024 by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency reminds us that 11% of greenhouse gas emissions are from methane emissions, not just carbon dioxide. And methane, according to the EPA website, is at least 28 times more potent as a greenhouse gas. Now, I've read also as much as 80 or 100 times more potent, depending upon the time frame in which you calculate it. I am devastated to hear about the council thinking about buying into this incredibly much more potent environmental greenhouse gas that is leaking like crazy. The systems that are delivering natural gas to these projects, who's measuring how much is leaking because of fracking, venting, leaking from transmission at the site? I mean, this is devastating for me to know about. I'm sorry about to get so emotional, but thank you for all you do. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah Woodbury, and I'm a Logan resident. I'm not an energy expert, but I am a 6th generation Utahn, and just wanted to share a brief thought here. So I love my ancestors, and I'm really grateful for them and for their decisions, many of their decisions. I respect them, I make a point to learn their stories, and at the same time, as someone who has now spent my adult years working in conservation, I have been frustrated by some of their decisions and how they have hindered my well-being and the well-being of all of us in this state. As I've worked with farmers to heal streams degraded due to water management decisions made by my ancestors, as I've stayed inside on bad air days due to energy development decisions made by my relatives, as I've spoken with tribes and ranchers and politicians to try to heal struggling landscapes due to decisions made by my people, I've sometimes wondered where I might have put my energy had my ancestors more deeply considered future generations, me, and their decisions. From what I can tell, my progenitors didn't have much of an understanding of how their decisions would affect the future, so I give them a whole lot of grace. Now, however, we do not have the luxury of ignorance in this decision. We've already seen the impacts of fossil fuels, both locally and globally, and we understand that choosing them is choosing to sacrifice future generations for our convenience now. So I turned 30 last year, and as I've made the movement from young adulthood into full-fledged adulthood, I am wondering how I can become a good ancestor that makes a better world for those following me, from that 15-year-old who got up here and asked all of us to listen, and to the future great-great-great-grandchildren who will hopefully still be here in a few hundred years. So I understand, of course, there is ease in making a more familiar or more convenient choice. But I look to each of you and to my fellow Utahns to do the work required to choose renewables to meet our energy needs in ways that do not sacrifice the futures of our children. I hope that we will show coming generations that we care about their futures and that we refuse to send them into adulthood with the weight of our unmet troubles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mark Knapziger. I've been a resident of Logan for almost 35 years now. I'm not going to talk about the environmental parts. There's everybody that's talked previously knows more about that than I do. But I do know something about psychology. And I've had the experience of buying a used car. People try to sell me a used car. I've had people come to my house telling me about how I needed a new roof. And for some reason, I had to make that decision right then, even though I didn't know very much about it. But I had to make it right then. And the reason I had to make it right then is somewhere, some people have learned that you got to put pressure on people in a time sense and make them decide before they know the total picture, whether it's my total financial picture or something else. And that's what I experienced here tonight. I mean, I accept the fact that a month, it's good that you waited a month, but I cannot believe that a $300 million project, 30 years, no off-ramp, it has to be decided in that type of a time frame where other people can't be consulted about it. And it just makes me really suspicious of what was behind the motivations for doing it in that way. Thank you.
I'm Kathy Roberts, and I live in Logan, and I wanted to say something very short and sweet. The idea that this project is in Idaho, oh, we don't have to worry, it doesn't bother Cache Valley's air. Well, it does. Anything that just goes into our atmosphere anywhere in the world affects us. We can't just say, oh, it's okay because it's someplace else. It does affect us, our quality of life, and that of our children and our grandchildren. Thank you.
Everybody did such a good job that I thought I didn't have to come up. I'm Gail Hansen. This is my 50th year here in Logan. I'm older than that. And the only thing that hasn't been pointed out is on the slide by the employee, which was excellent. It said that there was a 7-year development time, and then the gentleman from the organization said that it's 2 years. So maybe there isn't something that we can jump on board right now. But if there's only a 2-year development time, we've got time. We've got time. I've been here 50 years.
Josh Molitor from Planet Earth. You guys are our representatives. We are your constituents. You're here to represent us. And you've heard everybody out here. I think it's a good idea to start listening and start representing us and everybody in here and what they have said. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Hi,
My name's Jim Dyer. I moved to Logan in 1977 and have enjoyed all my years here. I share everyone's criticisms and skepticisms that have been expressed at this podium. I've noticed in the presentations that there seemed to be an awful lot of emphasis on the fiscal uncertainty and managing the fiscal uncertainty in the future. And so, I kind of tried to key into that based on my experience of large projects, being involved in large projects. And you rarely ever see a project that's in the tens, 50s, or hundreds of millions of dollars investment being completed on time or on budget. And we're buying into this, and so any overruns, any delays, that's our problem to share. And we're 10%, look like we're about a 10% shareholder in the overall, capacity of this plant. So we really don't have a voice, in the decisions that are going to be made. So so even though I share all the other environmental and, especially environmental things, the fiscal arguments don't hold water to me. It's very likely that this is going to get overrun and delayed. You really should plan on it. I don't know how you plan on that. The cost of materials is going up, the cost of labor is going up. You're taking on an incredible risk with this project. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I could just think I'd focus on that.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nathaniel Weidler. I am the current chair of the Logan City Lights and Power Advisory Board. And I've already sent you some emails and some good communications with all of you, so I won't rehash what was said. I will say that Mark and Yuchi do their jobs well. I will say that this is not a unique problem to Logan. Talking about the environmental issues, they're real, and I won't deny that. Mark and Yuchi look at all available options that they have to them, and they do the best they can. They participate in every renewable project that is available to them. As being a member of the advisory board, I have opportunities to attend power conferences multiple times a year. One thing that I just want to caution you about is if you think that large block purchases are a way out, those are all carbon projects. You're not going to see renewables if you buy large block power purchases. The second thing is that we're not the only ones working on this problem. I've been at conferences where large municipalities from California are invited to come present their renewable things. One thing I failed to mention, so I have a PhD in electrical engineering. I work as an engineer. So I understand theoretical sides of things, and I also understand practical sides of things. I would love to have an amazing carbon-free power for everybody. That would be the ideal solution. The technology isn't there yet. And there are case studies after case studies of specific municipalities in California that have built large-scale solar projects with batteries, and they do not cover their baseload needs. It's an unfortunate reality of life. I agree, the best renewables that we would have available to us were geothermal and nuclear to cover our baseloads. And I know that we will participate in every one of those opportunities that comes around. We get to a point where we just have to decide, Mark is charged with serving the load in Logan, and he does the best that he can with that. He's an honorable man, he's my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Elizabeth Dennison, and I've lived here in Cache Valley for over 35 years. I just wanted to say that I was in the council meeting that Rob talked about in 2007 when the city council voted down the coal power plant, and that was a really, really exciting thing that would have never expected.
I'm going to shorten because a lot of people have said some things that I had in here, but maybe you've heard the quote that says, "We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children." I was taught that when you borrow something precious, like this planet we're on, you take care of it. My dad used to say, "Leave things better than you found them in." I've had no doubt for many years now that climate change is real, and we're fast approaching a situation on our planet that will be very difficult to turn around unless we take the right actions and the difficult decisions. I want my grandchildren to be able to enjoy this planet, its beauty, the life on it that I've had a chance to enjoy for over 70 years. We need to work hard to find the alternatives rather than falling back on the same old thing again and again. I don't think the city should be looking at this. I think you really need to take a little bit more time, and I think you need to use the expertise, the passion, and the desire and commitment of your Renewable Energy and Sustainability Advisory Board. That's what they're supposed to be there. Listen to them, work with them. Don't do the easy thing. You know, somebody mentioned something about where's conservation in all of this? We really need to be pushing conservation. We all need to be making some sacrifices if we're going to have a decent future on this earth for all the children on this planet. To keep consuming and using and consuming and using and think there's no end to it is just not a good answer. You know, I think we can look at ways to try to work on conservation and encourage people to work on conservation. That has got to be a part of the answer as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Basil and I'm a Logan resident. I also need to be transparent. I work for the university. I do not speak for them. I speak for myself. I do work as an English 1010 instructor, so words are a big deal to me, and I'm overjoyed that the last speaker used the word push. I would like to share a definition of the verb push with you. Exert force, typically with one's hand, in order to move something away from oneself. Right now, you are pushing the issue of air quality on Idaho. Right now, with this decision, you are pushing progress away. You are pushing away the voices of the people that are speaking to you right now. The CEO, who has graced us with his presence tonight, is pushing his ideas onto us. He is pushing what he values, and that is money. I hope that you will take verbs into heart, that you will act. Verbs are actions. They are doing something in the world. And I hope, council, that you will do something good tonight. I hope that you will push for a good future. I hope that you will push for the young people in this room to live in a safer world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
I'm Beth Bouton, and I live in Logan for 3 years. I'd like to propose option 4, delay for 6 to 12 months, and get all these experts and the board together and do the research on renewables. I've heard no really fabulous statistics on renewables, and compare, and then make a decision, just like with the coal issue. I think you need the delay. So,
Hi, my name is Troy Hatch. I serve on the Power Advisory Board as well. I just wanted to, I'm not an expert on the subject, so I have to rely on those who are. It seems like there's a lot of passion tonight, which is awesome because people love living in this city. And a big part of that is because of the light and power that they receive and that they're able to sustain their livelihood with. So I think it's pretty awesome that we have that, and we have a lot of people to thank on Mark and his team to be grateful for. I think it's the experts that I've talked to. I mean, we heard a lot about renewable energy, but that's a big part of the discussion, right? We want to do renewable energies. the thing to keep in mind, the experts I've talked to is we're really just moving, yeah, there's some things that are cleaner about batteries, but it's not really clean. It's not carbon, it's not footprint free, right? We're still, solar's not without its flaws. There's no really good, pure, clean energy source that we have. But this one, it seems like if we rely on those experts who have been providing power to the city, it's a pretty good resource to be reliable. There's a lot of research that it's gone into, and I know very little about it, but those experts that I've listened to that talk about reliability is we just don't have it without some of these projects like we're talking about. So I just like to say I'd support the project.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Riley Fatawasi. I don't do well with public speaking, so part of my general ecstatic nature. I would like to comment and iterate on a few points priorly. Someone here, I apologize, I can't remember who, iterated the fact that a few communities have already gone through the process of 100% energy renewable in their own communities. And then we had the chair of this entire interaction, whatever your name was, I apologize, I forgot that too. He came up here and said that there are communities that cannot handle the load and cannot handle this current situation. It's a constant back and forth, and there's a few people, himself included, that come up in these integrations and these interactions to specifically kind of dissuade your opinion, dissuade your understanding of things, kind of push back and actually provide some kind of contention in this to, arouse your curiosity of it. Because in this interaction, the most pivotal point here is money and what's that going to do for them. And as people were up here and as they were iterating on the factor of air quality, I don't have asthma. I've had pneumonia before though, and that sucks. And air quality continuously will degrade with these implementations of fossil fuels and these things that have throughout history been a tried and true understanding of their cons and their negative effects. Pneumonia, for those who have never had it and for those who don't know, again, sucks. I was coughing blood out of my throat for 3 weeks straight. I couldn't move. The air was harsh to breathe. It was raspy, it was heated, and I hate that. And to think that in this entire discussion that the possibility that you could worsen that air quality and you can worsen the quality and conditions of residents in general because you are going for a more profit incentivized motive, that pisses me off. It makes me upset. There are people constantly throughout all facets and regions of our country who are disabled, and they have to go through the process of, in a double instance, feel the negative repercussion of these things, because the only people that actually get the good benefits, the positive benefits of these things are businesses, corporations. The people who are actively having a hand in sales like this, you are buying into this. We don't see that. I apologize for not having any other facts than being able to iterate that pneumonia sucks and this whole situation is annoying. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. My name is Tom Allward. I'm a resident here. Also, please excuse my public speaking skills. I'm no specialist on any of this stuff, but just wanted to zoom out a little bit. There's a lot of really smart people in this room, in this community, that I think we all should listen to. And as it was said before, I agree with a lot of stuff that was said tonight, most everything. You guys are our representatives. Please listen to your community. I think that, if we're really supposed to be the intelligent species on this planet, let's act like it. It's really easy to fall back on old habits, old things that worked with energy. But But why not be bold? Why not be smart and be courageous? I think it was already said that as soon as you commit and trust a new thing, new things open up. We can trust that knowledge that we have in this community. Again, a power plant, in Idaho doesn't change. Doesn't matter how many electric cars you have here, you're still getting fossil fuel energy from, across state lines. I don't think that's something you can go to sleep at night and feel good about. No matter how sustainable you're trying to be, if our power is coming from fossil fuels. It's important: clean air, clean water, our public lands, a sustainable future. Make the right call. I don't think we should focus the stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Gaia Nafziger, and I was born and raised in Logan, but most recently have been living in Austin, Texas. I just moved back to pursue a master's degree at USU. But while I was in Texas, I felt the effects of a power grid failure in 2021 with the Texas freeze. And I know there are many different factors at play in Austin, Texas than Logan, Utah. But for me, it really highlights that although much is said about the risk of renewables and battery storage, the fact is there are massive risks associated with fossil fuel power. They're just risks that we've all been conditioned to accept. And so I just ask that you please give this choice the proper consideration it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Aki Vanderbeek, and I am a Logan resident. I wasn't originally planning on speaking, so excuse any shakiness in my voice. I am a little nervous. But with the story about pneumonia, I got whooping cough in 5th grade and coughed for 6 months straight. It was horrible. My abs had never been stronger, however. But I remember having to stay in every single recess with the asthma kids because I could not be outside. When I did go outside, I'd cough so hard I'd gag and throw up on the grass. Like, that's horrible. It sucked. I was vaccinated against whooping cough. I still got it. My brother brought it back from 9th grade Lagoon Day. What can you do? And then my second point I thought of while sitting here was I was living in Salt Lake Valley during 2020. I moved up here in 2021. And when everything was kind of shut down for COVID and nobody was driving to work or just really driving a lot less in general, the inversion over the winter was like leaps and bounds better. So you can see in observations of like months, just like how much weight is in the emissions let out into the air. I had never seen clear mountains in Salt Lake Valley after living there for 18 years. And I guess my last point is that, like many young people, I feel really disheartened and not represented at all by the people who are supposed to be doing that in government. And I've kind of accepted that, at a federal level, I can't do anything. My vote really doesn't do much with the Electoral College. But here, it matters, and I can do something. Community is really the only thing that matters. And I guess I want to, ask you to consider what a lot of people have said here tonight and actually represent us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Simon Doan. I've lived here for 16 years. I live in North Logan. I'm representing the American Communist Party. The decision to pull out of the nuclear project at Idaho National Laboratory in 2020 led to it being shuttered in 2023, as far as I can tell. We would not have the problem that we're dealing with today if we had stuck with nuclear energy, which represents the future of America. Nuclear recycling is practiced in Russia and China and should be explored here. We need to stop stealing fossil fuels from the Middle East and Russia through imperialism. My mother is plagued by pneumonia due to the inversion, off and on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Arthur Kaplan. I'm a 24-year resident of Logan and Cache Valley. I've been listening to everybody speak tonight, and what I'm hearing them ask you to do is simply to widen your lens on this decision. This is not a decision that you want to make with a narrow lens. And basically what the plea is from very passionate and very educated people is to widen your lens on this one. Because when you do, you're going to take in all of the characteristics of the problem that you should be taking care of, or taking account of. They're environmental, they're community-based. These are all part of a wider lens that should be accounted for in a decision of this magnitude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Keller, and I've been here a long time, 60-some years, so I don't know what that means, but it's been a while. And my big concern is that this 30-year commitment, you already made a commitment earlier without notifying us. I'm a little disappointed in that. A little bit more than a little, to be honest, because there are some very smart people here that were conveniently ignored. And I'm curious how that has been allowed to happen. I've had my own experiences dealing with different things here in Logan City, so I'm not totally surprised, just again disappointed. But the real clear thing is, this is a bad investment. 30-year investment on an outdated system. It's not where we're headed. And I hope that you recognize that. I'm a bike guy, so I understand the watts. We're barely a quarter of a horsepower. So I appreciate what it takes to keep the lights on. So I appreciate what our Logan City Power Line does. But I also have experience, I don't know a polite way to put this, but very stupid. Stupid. I did a solar project, and what Logan Power and Light wanted me to do was absolutely crazy because I couldn't use a solar ring connector, which is used all over the United States. I even talked to the CEO of the company that makes these, and he said, well, I'll talk to the powers to be there in Logan City, and if they're logical, this won't be a problem. Well, guess what? They weren't logical. I'm not going to say who, but you're getting bad advice from people who aren't logical, plain and simple, and you're getting pushed into it. So I think it's clear this is a bad decision. And you already made one bad decision. Don't do another. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one standing in line, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council. Mark, do you have any thoughts?
I have so many thoughts, I don't even know where to start, so still trying to sort through that. The only thing I want to say right now is I believe I'm the only one who was on city council at that point that wanted to stay in the nuclear project.
That wanted to what?
wanted to stay in the nuclear project. So I voted to stay in the nuclear project. My goal my goal on city council is so that Logan City can be independent and 100% renewable. But that reality isn't like today. I wish it were, but I don't think it's possible. But in the near future, we're going to be able to have that nuclear, but is it going to be in 5 years when we really need the power, or is it going to be in 10 or 15? So that's the risk that we're taking. That's what I said back in December too. It's like, we can wait to find that renewable, but how long is it going to take? And nobody can answer that for us. And so we've researched this for the last 6 weeks. It's not like we're barely getting the information right now. It's like we've been working on this for a while. So there's no great answer. There's no perfect answer for what we need. But at some point, we're going to need electricity, and I feel like we need 30 megawatts of renewable, and we need 30 megawatts of base load as well too. So I think we're cutting ourselves short. We need more power than what we've got, and I think we're going to need more in the future as well too. So we got to find sources, and I'm willing to look in every direction to find it, because I think we're going to be short.
Thank you, Mark.
Anyone else?
Well, I think you know how I feel about this project. I'm the one that moved to deny last time. And honestly, that hasn't changed. It's been reinforced, in fact, not only because of the passion of the people that are here, but I asked a very simple question: what is the perfect mix of diversification? I think it's a simple question that even taken into today's could have potentially been answered. And maybe he doesn't know that answer, and that's fine. I'm not going to fault him for not being able to answer the question. I think the industry should know what is that formula today and what it should be 5 or 10 years from now. I think if we approve another one of these projects, it sends the message that we will continue to approve these projects no matter how many come. And I don't want to send that message. So I think I also mentioned the liabilities of owning a power plant. We hear of acts of terrorism at times. I don't know what that would do to an investment of that size for Logan City if something like that happened to a fossil fuel plant in the future. And I think it would close the door on other renewable projects with tired hands and to some degree. I mean, I know our need will continue to grow, which means that we will continue to have to contract to purchase more power. But for those reasons, I cannot support signing up for this project. And there is a motion, if you're looking for one, there is a motion to deny this resolution.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Considering I think I was the one who made the motion last time to deny, and you seconded, Ernest, so wasn't it that way? Or vice versa? I'll second you, but I want to say thank you to Mark. I know this has probably been a bit of a rough go. He spent a lot of time with me and a lot of emails and meetings, and it's not something that I feel like I'm comfortable voting for. I look at 30 to 40 years, I wasn't even alive, 34 years ago. But I look at, I have a 5-year-old son, and I don't want him having to deal with this in 30 plus years, right? And if it really is a 2-year development track for this, and I know purchasing market block power is likely means we're buying fossil fuel power in the meantime, but it gives us the flexibility, from what I understand, to to look at other options in 2, 3, 4 years as they become available. And I just know that I wouldn't be able to sleep with myself tonight if I said yes to 30 megawatts of natural gas for the next 35 to 40 years, or 30 to 40.
Are there any other comments?
I'd like to, go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, this is the struggle, is ensuring that we're providing the resources that are needed for our community with balancing the health effects and all of those. I do have big concerns about the financial commitment to this. You know, the nuclear project was brought up. One of the main reasons that I think our council at large voted against that was because we were investing our citizens' money in a project that was getting more and more and more expensive, and there was concern that we had an off-ramp. Was now the time to take it before we were committing to something that wasn't. The possibility of it happening was starting to look more and more questionable. So the financial commitment for this is huge. You know, I know in some of the conversations I've had with individuals, you know, we do have the option of purchasing less than 35. We do. And that's where my struggle is like, how do we ensure that we've got the power that's needed? But yeah, the ongoing commitment to fossil fuel is a scary thing. So, and I'm not following the 2-year development, because I thought we've been in it for developing it for 2 years, but there's 7 years still to come before this is online. So it's really a 9-year development. It's not a 2. So,
well, what he said is they've been working on this for 2 years. So 2 years from now, we will probably have other things coming up, right? Like, it's not like we have to wait 20 years before we see something else come up. There will probably be other projects. He's shaking his head at me on the back row. But I'm assuming we'll see things in the next 2 to 5 to 7 years. It's not like we have to wait 30 years for another option to come up, I would assume.
Yeah. I guess so. My biggest thing, though, is like when we look at this, like one of the comments that was made earlier is that we're going to need to use IPP, which is even worse, right? This is the struggle, right? It's like the devil you know and the devil you don't. I mean, if we're going to have to purchase block purchasing, we're going to be purchasing fossil fuels. There's no doubt about it. That's what's available. So do we preserve our reliability when we know ultimately if we are buying that power block, we're going to be buying fossil fuel? And I guess that to me is like, that's what's in my head is it better to know what our commitment is to have the reliable power versus we're going to be buying it anyway if we don't do this at probably a higher price.
But it's probably easier to phase out of that into a renewable that we can control rather than a multi-decade commitment. That's the concern for me. It's like, yeah, we're still using fossil fuels right now, but we're not committed to using them until my son's sitting up here. Right. Hopefully he finds a better hobby. Just saying.
Well, to your point, Amy, I used the analogy when I spoke with RESAB after our last meeting that I stand with one foot wanting us to be entirely renewable and the other foot knowing that in 10, 15, 20 years people are still going to need power, and in between my 2 feet is a huge chasm that I have to figure out how to cross. How can I create that renewable future that is going to be everything that the people on the other side of the chasm need? How am I going to do that? And so I'm like you. It's like, do I say, well, we'll have this little piece that's going to be non-renewable, but we'll commit to making the rest of the piece be renewable, and then when we can get to that point, then we can say, okay, this 30 over here, or 20, whatever it is, I don't remember. It's like
30 on this one, 26 on the other.
So this 30, then maybe we can say, okay, we've got 30, our base is 84, so we've acquired 54 of renewables. Maybe we can find somebody to buy us out of that 30, and we can jettison it and do the whole pizza, so to speak. But I don't know. I don't know. It's hard.
Well, I'm not willing to do the whole 30.
But I also,
But I'm just like.
No, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know.
I think to some extent too, and I feel awkward looking at you as people in the back row as I say this, but to some extent I feel like municipalities need to look at UAMPS and say, we don't want natural gas, we don't want fossil fuels, because that will push them to find other options for us. Right? Like that's their job, is to help provide power for us. And if 35 of us say, yeah, sure, okay, fossil fuels, the next thing they're going to bring is, oh, everyone else wanted fossil fuels last time. And that, like, how do we make that transition without forcing the transition realistically?
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I think that's what I was trying to say, which is kind of what Mike was just saying.
And then Mark has
If we continue to approve this type of project, the message is, yeah, it's painful, yeah, we know things are not great with it, but
everyone hates us.
Everybody signs up for them, makes our job easier. I'm not saying that your jobs are easy by any means, Mark and UAMPS. In fact, I really appreciate everything you guys do. I know it's tough. But I think saying no forces us to be creative in instances like this. And so that's what I would hope we'd be willing to do, to force decision makers of what resources even are proposed and put in the queue for transmission, to force them to think twice before saying, oh yeah, they'll put another fossil fuel plant. And instead force them to be like, oh wait, we need to get more of the renewable projects online, more of the bigger, more of them closer, farther away, so that they're not in one single location, so that they're diversified. That's one of the keywords I kept hearing today. And so that's kind of.
Okay.
Mark has a thought.
Mark?
I really like what Mike just said, because UAMPS is our answer. And so if we want to tell them, bring us some other options, I love that idea, because, there's geothermal out there that's going to come out of Utah and say they generate 300 megawatts of power. How much of that is going to stay in Utah? How much is going to go to California? How much is going to go to Oregon? How much is going to go to Washington? And we get nothing out of it. Okay, so we need this consortium of cities to work together to build these types of projects with renewables that stay in our community, because there could be all kinds of renewable projects out there, and we're going to get nothing from those projects because they're going to go somewhere else where they can get more money for it. And so if we can encourage UAMPS to do more of these projects, and I really want to get back into the nuclear, that's really where we have to go. If we need baseload power, we've got to go nuclear, because solar just is great when the sun shines, but it's not when there's no sun. And wind is great when the wind blows, but it's not when there's no wind. So we've got to have this baseload power, and I'm telling you all, we don't need 30, we need 60 megawatts. 30 is not enough, because we're going to grow faster, and we're fooling ourselves if we think that this natural gas generating plant is producing more carbon than the 80,000 vehicles that are going through our valley right now. All those vehicles are producing 10 times more carbon every day than that plant is going to. So if we want to fix our air quality, we got to get those cars off the road and start riding bikes and doing something else, because it's a drop in the bucket what this generation plant's going to put out there compared to the amount of vehicles that are on the road every day already in our state. So we're fooling ourselves if we think that we're going to make a difference in our air quality.
Go ahead, Mark, sorry.
No, it's okay. So I get it. It's like, I want cleaner air. I want a cleaner environment. But let's get after the actual culprit instead of a way where we can supply power to our customers so they can generate power to power their electric bike or their electric car in a more efficient way than everybody driving a car somewhere else. So we're fooling ourselves if we think that this plant is going to produce that much more carbon than we're already generating right now with all the cars that we're driving. So I'm up for whatever y'all want to do, but when it comes down to it, we need more power than what we've got right now. If we're going to bring in tech jobs, if we're going to bring in research, if we're going to do anything with any industry that needs more megawatts than what we can provide, we are going to have to turn them away. And we've turned away a lot of great jobs, high-paying, high-quality jobs, because we don't have enough electricity.
And I agree with you, Mark. I will say I don't have control over the 80,000 cars. If I did, they would all not be polluting the air.
I know. We're working on it. I mean, I rode my bike to work all summer.
But I do
have a bike right now. But I can bet you right now that everybody that came to meetings tonight drove their car, unless they live close enough that they walked. So we're all adding to the problem.
So opportunity cost is something that's come up in the RESAD report as well, that if we do this, we don't have the opportunity to invest in other things. So I would turn to you a little bit. If we are making this long-term commitment to this project, where would the funding come to take advantage of new renewable projects as they came on? I mean,
both of the renewable project that was kind of proposed, all of that would have to be fleshed out a ton. Both of these projects are basically buying power that we need to sell. So a portion of the cost of either project is already included in the budgets that we have as a city.
Okay.
However, anytime you buy something new, it's going to be more expensive than the thing that was old. And so I do expect rates to go up.
Power rates for...
Have to.
Yeah.
Absolutely have to. And yeah, opportunity cost cuts both ways. There's an opportunity cost if we go with this project. We possibly couldn't do some renewable project we would want to do. There's also the possibility that if we don't participate in this project, we won't have power to buy. And those are two very real opposing scenarios. And anybody that denies one or the other is fooling themselves.
Yeah, those are the exact risks that I talked about in December, Rich. It's like, you got to decide, do you want power or do you want to go a different direction? Because we've got risks both ways. And when it comes to the cost, it's not like a 30-year mortgage that we're getting into or a house doesn't generate any money for us. The power that we're buying is what we're used to pay for this facility. So the facility is generating electricity for us, and that's where our payment is going to go. It's not like a mortgage for a house that doesn't make you any money.
I do need to come to UF's defense just a little bit. I don't know that an entity has ever pushed a project harder than they pushed the small modular nuclear.
That is true.
They pushed it as hard as an entity could push it because they could see the future and they could see opposition and they could see all the things that we're dealing with today. However, that project was horribly overpriced. One gentleman spoke about the cost overruns of a project. You've never seen cost overruns like a nuclear project. That was unbelievable. However, it is the only base load
non-carbon power source that's out there. Yes, we have some.
Uses a ton of water.
We have some water projects, and those are great. We love those. We have some geothermal. We love those, and we love more. But right now, that's the only one that actually pencils, and it doesn't pencil.
Well, you know, it's funny because the one gentleman who talked about how much geothermal is in the state of Utah, it would be really nice if the state legislature wouldn't permit unless they held some of that output for the state of Utah and didn't.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. That's what we talked about last night, Jeannie. It's just like we've got to find a way to get our legislature to make sure that these renewable projects that are created in Utah, at least half of it stays here so we can use it.
Yep. Because if we continue to develop geothermal projects in the state of Utah and all of the output goes somewhere else, I don't think we're helping our community become more renewable, more sustainable.
And that is exactly where it's going to go, too. It's going to go to California, it's going to go to Oregon, it's going to go to Washington, because they're forcing themselves to go 100% renewable. And unless we start protecting our resources here, we're going to lose it to somebody else.
But that's a conversation for another day, I believe. Does anybody have any other, are you ready to vote? Do you want to discuss things further? What is your pleasure? Ooh, I got no pleasure over here.
I mean, that's all right. I made a motion, and I'm happy to vote on it.
Motion that is on the table, I'm ready to vote.
Yeah.
So Jeannie, just for a fair roll call vote, and a yes is to deny the passage of the resolution.
Correct.
That is correct. Okay. Ernesto.
Yes to deny.
Mark.
Nay.
Mike.
Aye to deny.
Amy.
Aye to deny.
I'll go with aye to deny. No, can I say something, please?
So I
Before
don't
you
use
all
that
get
in 30 years, so it doesn't matter if there's no
I want to say that I appreciate all of you being here. We appreciate your comments. We hope that you will be a part of the solution, because we can't do it by ourselves. So I also know that most of you were here for this particular piece. If you would love to talk about Rich's budget adjustments, you're welcome to stay. But we'll take a 5-minute recess so that if you are leaving, it doesn't disrupt the rest of the meeting.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd like to reconvene the meeting, please. Our second item now this evening is another public hearing, a budget adjustment, appropriating $90,000 grant to Parks and Recreation that the Parks and Recreation received from the state of Utah to clean up and stabilize riverbanks around Trapper Park. $15,000 for community development received for historical preservation projects, $12,514 for the police department for receipt for hosting a K-9 training seminar, and $20,000 for the electric department received from the Utah Clean Air Partnership to rebate citizens with qualifying electric purchases, just so we could stay on a theme. Does anybody have any questions about those?
No, ma'am.
This is a public hearing. If anybody has any comments they'd like to make, please come to the podium and state your name.
Hi, Matthew Patwesi. Congratulations on a good decision. Let's see. So I guess this is all money that's already been received, and it's just a matter of distribution and everything like that. I just figured there's an interesting factoid to share with you. It's pertinent in a way since it's the K-9 unit. Did you know that a lot of the numbers for following police officers in the field of duty includes K-9s? Just an interesting factoid to share with you guys. But yeah, I just hope that the funding that's going to the police is actually getting directed appropriately to things instead of just bolstering the militarism that we have, you know, ramping up significantly. Anyways, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That one specifically was for a K-9 training.
Correct. It was received for hosting, correct?
In other words, we invited other agencies to participate in the K-9 training because it was cheaper for all of us.
Right. Anyone else? I will close the public hearing, bring it back to the council for a decision.
I'll move acceptance of Resolution 24-48.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll roll call vote. Mark?
Aye.
Ernesto?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Jeannie? Aye. We'll move now to the third item on our agenda, which is not a public hearing. Resolution 2501. I'll turn the time over to Rich, and he'll turn the time over to another person.
I will. After that controversial thing, it's great to get back to just doing the city's business, doing something uncontroversial like the water tank project. What we're doing today, however, is focusing on the financing for a project.
It's a consideration.
We're talking about the financing for a project. We are not selecting the project, nor the route, nor the individual options that might be available, nor the surface options, nor anything else about the project, just financing a project. All of those items will come forward at a future budget resolution where we'll be asking council for the remainder of the appropriation to do that project. Currently estimated somewhere between 60 million and 80 million. Hoping it's closer to the 60, that would be great. However, the bonding that we're asking for is simply setting the parameters under which we're able to issue debt in the future once we've determined the amount that we need to issue, and we've come back to council for that budget resolution as well. We're just setting the parameters for that. And we purposely set those parameters wide enough that they will accommodate whatever future project we believe that we will have. If in the unlikely event the cost of that project ends up exceeding our parameters, we'll come back to council to redo that. The reason we're doing it now is because as part of this parameters resolution, Section 13 of the resolution deals with reimbursing the city for costs that are incurred. That section allows us to go back 60 days from the adoption of the resolution to reimburse ourselves for costs that were incurred. Only 60 days. Plus, most of you are aware, we spent $750,000 on land acquisition and right-of-way for the project in December, which means in order to reimburse ourselves, we need that reimbursement resolution. And we do that reimbursement resolution along with this parameters resolution. So hopefully that explains why we're doing it now. Again, we're not selecting a project, we're simply going through the initial steps of allowing the city to bond. And the selection of the project will come at a later date. I hope it comes sooner rather than later, but we need to work through some things before we're ready to come forward with a route and an estimated cost, at which time we will specify how much is coming from bonds, how much is coming from our own resources. And then at some date after that, I anticipate we will issue bonds. One nuance, your approval tonight and going through this process will authorize the city to issue bonds. So we can issue bonds. The problem is the reason we need the budget resolution is that it allows us to spend the bond proceeds. So it's a little bit disjointed. There's nothing prohibiting the city from issuing bonds after the city goes through this process, other than the fact that we could not spend them, so there's no purpose to do them. Does that make sense?
In a very convoluted, lovely way, yes.
Matt is our financial advisor. He advises the finance department and the city in all things related to debt. We also employ bond attorneys, bond counsel, who draft ordinances and make sure we follow the laws. But Matt works for Steeple, and he's been the advisor to the city for quite some time. He's done a wonderful job helping us out. I appreciate his expertise.
Rich, thank you so much. Financial advisors are like plungers. We're good to keep on hand. We don't necessarily need us very often.
Whoa!
I don't know that you really want to stick with that.
We're very useful. No, thank you, Rich, and Madam Chair, Council. Great to be with you. I may just add just very briefly to what Rich has said. I came prepared for 45 minutes, but just a few seconds. A bond parameters resolution is statutorily required. If you go to the Local Government Bonding Act, it's one of the first things listed that the local governing body has to approve a resolution to authorize the issuance of the bonds. And then you have to hold a public hearing, which is also spelled out in the resolution. And the way I like to think about a parameters resolution is that the council is approving what I refer to as a box of acceptability. That you're approving this box and you delegate to the mayor and to Rich the authority to approve the final terms of the bonds. And this speaks nothing other than a very generic term for the project. I know a lot of that still has to be ironed out. But this statutory step is essential, as Rich mentioned, because it's required by the legislature, but also for your reimbursement resolution purposes. So that is all encompassed in this resolution. It also allows the city to proceed according to industry best practices, and there's some accompanying documents in near draft final form that you're approving that are just part of the regular bonding process. I will say that adoption of a parameters resolution does not require the city to issue the bonds, but it is that first statutory step.
So some cities would do this just all the time, right? Like once a year, they do a parameters resolution?
Well, in my experience, sometimes projects change, or they may want to utilize a different revenue stream to pay for it, or some other money or grants become available. So things can change, but yes, it certainly doesn't require you to do it, but it is required if you do issue the bonds. So happy to answer any other questions.
Maybe I'll interject one other thing. It is a little bit weird that council adopts a parameters resolution before holding a public hearing. That's not our normal process. But we're not the ones in control. This is state code that we're following. Therefore, council adopts the resolution, which opens the door so that we can hold the public hearing, which is anticipated to be held on February 4th, if council adopts. And then you get to hear from the public. Again, I would hope the public hearing would be focused on financing the project, not which one we're doing, because that is not what we're selecting here. We're just allowing ourselves to bond at the future date. Anticipated to be somewhere between 31 and 59. What was the number? 51. 31 and 51 at this time, with a little bit of flexibility.
60.
The bonding portion.
Not more than 60.
Just the bonding portion.
And that's a great point to make, Rich. The public hearing, and I'll be back up for that, but the purpose of that, as outlined in statute, is for the public to comment on the issuance of the bonds and to comment on any effects that the project may have on the private sector. So, so if it were competing with, say, a private business providing a similar service, that's typically how the statute is.
Oh, how the bond would?
If you were using the bonds to like build a rec center.
Yes, so that's, yeah, and that's the statutorily
What the public hearing is for.
description of what
Okay.
of what a public
Okay.
hearing is for the bond, just kind of second thing that Rich mentioned. But I do, real quickly, as advisor to the city, just want to commend you for your very low overall debt burden. And the city has, comparable to your peer groups, a very low debt burden. And if you look at all your outstanding bonds, they're all related to utility. And you're paying for those bonds as those projects are being used. The last time, my plunger metaphor, the last time the city bonded was for your sewer treatment. About 7 years ago. So the city's been very, very wise, I would say, in when you need to access the capital markets. And so compliments to you and to Rich for managing the city's finances.
Thank you, and thank you for sitting for so long before you could.
Hours of fun. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
If we bond for $60 million and we pay essentially minimum payment, I'm going to use layman terms here, is this total estimated cost? Is that what we would pay for those? It would be the $117 million. That'd be what we would end up paying
over the life of the bond.
Over the life of the bond.
That again is an estimate based on very conservative assumptions. You're
conservative high or
conservative on the high end.
Okay.
Yes. So, for example, the 6% published in the resolution is just because we don't know where the market will be in weeks or months ahead. But
this is the maximum you would estimate that it would be.
And that's, Mike, that's a great question, because we were in the market today about a $25 million water bond for another entity in the state of Utah, 20 years at 3.85%. So just to give you a sense where the market is. So the 6% is definitely.
Well, these are revenue-based bonds, right?
They are, yes. These are revenue-based bonds. Investors are buying your water revenues, and the city has a very strong financial credit strength, and so I would anticipate you being on very low interest rate.
And they're tax advantaged too.
Yes, the investors that buy the bonds and provide you the money, they don't pay taxes. They're tax exempt. Right. And so by virtue of that, they're able to offer you lower interest rates as opposed to a corporation issuing a taxable bond. So rates are probably 20 to 30% lower than.
So, and the rates are fixed?
It would.
Yes.
Once the bonds are issued.
Yeah.
They're broken up into separate issuances, so separate interest rates, depending on how long they go out.
So what's the time parameter from this to when? How long does this stay open for? Like we could vote to do the bonds in 2 years and 2 months. Like what's the time frame that this stays open for
the resolution?
The resolution. So this is the one action that the council takes in regards to the financing aspect of it, and then you'll have your public hearing. But there's no sunset statutorily to a resolution. Generally, and we do have instances where a resolution is adopted, but again, because the project and other things takes time, bonds aren't issued. Typically within a year, I recommend that you release address the resolution, not a repeat, but just as a courtesy to your constituents, to say, by the way, we adopted this resolution last year, we haven't issued the bonds yet, here's our current.
Okay. Okay. So no sunset.
There's no sunset, no deadline, and no requirement to actually.
Okay.
And no prepayment, call it penalty?
That would be worked out in the financing as a detail. If you say that you will not prepay those, then sometimes you get a slightly better rate. But it would all be part of the financing, I don't know.
Yeah, most bonds in the state, virtually all bonds in the state, for long-term projects, be it 15, 20, 25, 30 year, all have at least a 10-year redemption provision where the first 10 years are non-callable. You make your payments for the first 10 years, but then at year 10, you either refinance as you would, mortgage, or pay off if you have excess cash. So there's flexibility. So you're locked in for 20 or 30 years, but within 10 years, you can restructure, pay off.
But you don't have to restructure.
No, it's your option.
Assuming rates went up or something,
Yeah,
you could keep it.
You pay for the option, and typically work through the mathematics, and if it's a financial benefit, take advantage of that. If not, leave the bonds where they are.
Yep, unfortunately, we can't have them be the ones where you clip the little coupon and take it in anymore.
That would be cool.
That was fun. I did it for a long time.
They did, yeah, the bearer bonds.
Yeah, it was a coupon bond. They were bearer bonds, and so they weren't owner.
Whoever had them.
You take it into a bank, and the bank would give you your interest payment.
Yep. And then they were this big. The coupons.
Oh, yeah.
Now the registers, and it's all electronic.
Yeah, I know. They took all the fun out of it.
It sounds like something from Monopoly, not something from real life.
It was real life.
I'm just curious, how does someone buy a bond?
I don't think any of us can afford one.
Yes, you can.
And depending on the city's timing, once the project's defined and whatnot, you will enter the capital markets similar to a corporation issuing an IPO of stock. And so if any of you wanted to buy one of Logan City's bonds, you certainly could. You just do it through your broker, and then your broker submits an order to the underwriter.
To the bond market, yeah.
So it's all very transparent.
But now you don't get the paper with the coupons.
I can definitely not afford a bond. Am I legally allowed to buy a bond that I issued from the city? There's got to be a conflict of interest there.
There would be some disclosures.
Just need to sign another paper.
Another piece of paper.
I'm still trying to pay off my mortgage. I'm not even close to that.
We've gone off topic. So do we want to?
One piece of information I want to make sure the council is aware of and the public. The higher this project goes in total, the higher the likelihood we'll have to raise rates to do the project. I know we kind of talked about that when we were talking about the project when we held that meeting. But just because we're saying the parameters are this, does not mean that right now we could go and issue that and all would be dandy. When we come back with the project estimate
budget
and asking for the council to pass a budget and we hold a public hearing on that, there may also be an accompanying water rate increase to afford that project.
Okay.
We were prepared for a certain amount.
Well, we've been preparing for several years.
We've been preparing, and we were prepared for a certain amount, and unfortunately, that is now the low estimate for the project.
Okay. So our job tonight is to pass the resolution or not?
Pass the resolution or not?
So I will entertain a motion when everyone is done talking about it.
I'll move we approve resolution 25-01.
Mark?
I would be happy to second that.
Hey, I want him to participate.
Just unplug it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Mark? Your vote?
Aye.
Ernesto?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Jeannie, aye. It's unanimous?
So so can we make sure we clarify then that public hearing on the 4th, those items, like that, what the intention of the public hearing is?
Yeah, I think that's purposely why we made the agenda item the longest in agenda history, just so people can read it. This is what it's about. Also, there was an article, well, actually, the article was great. It didn't flesh out the entire reason for why we're doing things. It did a decent job saying we're laying a foundation, but yeah, we'll do the best we can.
The person who wrote that article is
I think they can listen to this if they're interested. I think they'll understand we're not talking about a option right now. We're just talking about generic financing and making sure that financing is broad.
And we have to do that financing in a timely way because of the purchase of property and the way the system works.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you for sitting here for hours.
Move now to the workshop items. Workshop item, Rich.
Okay, this is several items to consider, a couple big ones. $11,961, this is a state grant for police equipment. We have $2,892,660. We received a grant from the EPA for the green waste facility. We appropriated 1.108, 340-ish. Along with this will be the $4 million that we have to spend on that project. That is the grant portion.
Is it green waste or biosolids?
It's green waste, but I think, well, it's green waste. Isn't it?
They're using the green waste to make fertilizer, right, Mark?
Yeah.
They're turning trees and
Yeah.
human waste into plant food.
But that's biosolids, but I thought these grants, I thought the EPA stuff was for the biosolids program.
It could be.
But it might be the green waste facility
Yeah.
part, okay. All right.
$48,417, request that we appropriate EMS reserves that were received from the proceeds of an old power cut that was damaged in the ambulance, I think a year ago. These are the proceeds we received from that power cut, asking to appropriate those to buy a new one. $117,590 for electrical vehicle charging equipment for our electric fund. And this is another grant for $100,893 for EMS. It's for our 911 operations center. We do this each year about this time. The total is like $183,000. We've already appropriated 75 as part of the original adopted budget. And lastly but not leastly is a request to appropriate $12,900 of golf course reserves for the installation and replacement of nets down at the golf course. So we're going to install some new ones.
To keep the balls from hitting cars?
It's preferred.
Who's that bad at golfing?
It's not Rich, because
I don't know who can hit the highway from hole number 2. I have no idea.
I've seen a couple hackers out there that...
I haven't.
You just hurt yourself.
I've hit every road around the golf course at some point or another.
Hopefully the new nets will be out by then.
Are they going to increase the ones on hole number?
Are these also for the driving range?
Just 2?
For the driving range as well as
Or is
the
it also
highway?
for, what's the hole that runs right along Golf Course Road there? Because if you really hook that one, you can hit the road too.
14.
14, yes.
We have replacements along Golf Course Road. We have additional ones which would be new along the highway.
Are they going to be longer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. They don't need to be higher. I'm not that good. Just longer. Thank you, Russ, for spending all night to answer that one question for me.
So, there are no further questions? We are...
Wait.
Other
I have another
considerations?
consideration.
Oh, hang on.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Just 2 quick ones. One, just a reminder that the point in time count of homeless is on January 29th, actively seeking volunteers to come out and help with that. It would begin at midnight on Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday, assessing whether or not people had a place fit for human habitation on the night of the Thursday night. But we can continue to ask people questions. And then I said, did we close on Plaza 45? Is that property sold now?
It's still in process, but
Yeah, it's closing next week.
Is it? Okay, that was just a curiosity as to whether or not that was moving forward. Okay, those are mine.
I have one quick one. There is a Woodruff, and this is now Ernesto, I don't know if he knows about this yet, but there's a Woodruff neighborhood meeting on January 30th at Woodruff Elementary, January 30th at 7 p.m., 6 p.m. January 30th, 6 p.m., Woodruff Elementary. Woodruff neighborhood is having a neighborhood meeting. Lots of Woodruffs in there. Regarding Willow Lakes and a couple other things. This is the required meeting they have to have before Willow Lakes can go back to Planning Commission for their PDO.
At 6, you said?
6 p.m. at Woodruff Elementary. So.
And Tuesday, January 28th, Ellis is having a neighborhood meeting as well.
At what time?
I have something.
5:30.
5:30.
That's for Ellis. Who's Ellis now?
That's me.
That's you, okay.
It will be only an hour. Sue wants it to be only an hour. And the other thing, I hope you all got the invitation to go to the Hope Squad lunch.
Oh, I was going to ask about that.
If you haven't been to that before,
I was there
It's Thursday at noon.
Next Thursday.
No, this
Thursday.
No, it's next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
But it's a really cool opportunity. It's a really cool group. The kids are doing wonderful things in Logan High, and I'm not this year, but it is really amazing.
Right there. Event date Thursday, January 16th at noon. Are you going, Ernesto?
Which one?
The Hope Squad.
Probably not.
Okay.
I was there last time.
Yep, I'll plan on going. You're out of town?
And then the two of us are
So are you guys not coming to
well,
the...
I'm like in town, I just won't be in
Okay, are you coming to the general plan meeting that day?
Yeah.
On Thursday?
Thursday the 16th at 10 a.m.?
I don't think is that ours or is that
I don't even have that.
There's a couple of different ones that we've
I don't know, I just got invited to a meeting.
I
I
haven't
clicked yes on
seen
it.
that one, I don't think.
We've been invited
That's
to
you, isn't it?
No, we've been invited to like 5 different.
Well, there's one that
general
says
plans.
transportation focused.
For the general plan,
Thursday, January 16th at 10 a.m.
Yeah, I think I'm going with that.
I think
Okay.
there's several going on.
Well, there's another one.
There's
next
also a
Thursday, too.
community leader
I only get
one,
mad at
there's
some of them. Okay, I don't know. I just clicked yes on them. I didn't know you guys were getting different ones.
According
Sorry.
to Mike, we just need to go to one of them. We don't need to attend all of them.
Oh, the 14th, is that the one that you said?
Bang the gavel, you do it.
And then Ernesto and I are taking youth down for